You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Harburg, he's taking a shot downfield, wide open end zone, caught, touchdown. It's Malachi Coleman.
Nebraska, they make you play with all 11, right?
Heinrich gets the snap, back to throw. Has some time, steps, throws, pass, caught by Fedoni for 20. He's to the 15, to the 10, to the 5. Touchdown, Nebraska. Thomas Fedoni leaped in the air, clutched the football, and then had open turf into the end zone.
We have to continue to go like this and just say we're playing as the Huskers.
Purdy to give to Grant. Grant left side. Another score for the Huskers.
These guys are learning by fire.
Harburg keeps a seam. Harburg lowers his head into the end zone. A touchdown for the Cornhuskers.
This is a personal deal. You know, I hear stuff about the offense and everything, and we are not as good on defense if it wasn't for those guys.
Another low snap. Allmeyer steps up in the pocket. Throws middle, he's got his man, and a first down as the ball comes out. Tommy Hill has it going the other way, gets to his own sideline. Another big turnover for Nebraska's defense.
These guys fight. They fight for the University of Nebraska.
That went for 35 yards, and Keldrick Moody, welcome to Lincoln, Nebraska. The introduction made by Deshaun Singleton.
You fight if it means you die. You fight, you fight, you fight, and you take for once what we want. And I'm just waiting for something good to happen. Who's the guy supposed to make the difference? I'm surrounded by it. And you guys freaking do it. We on the same page? Fight, fight, fight.
And if we die, we die.
He added an F-bomb in there.
With you friggin' guys. His like East Coast really shows there on some whenever he says freaking. It's like, you friggin' guys. I feel like I'm watching an episode.
Sounds like it has some G's in there.
Yeah, it's I'm watching an episode of Sopranos every time he says you friggin' guys. Love it though. Good stuff there, Shano. I'm Ravi Lulla. This is Andrew Rogers, and we are with you here on Hurrdat Sports Radio on a Friday.
It is Friday.
Getting ready for some football,
some hockey,
some high school football, some college football, some hockey. What else we got going on this weekend? Union Omaha. We're going to talk
Omaha on Saturday.
We got football and football. We're getting it covered from every angle here on AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. World Series starts tonight. I mean, it's a busy time of year. We are off and popping, and I'm excited.
What's popping? Brand new wheels. Just popping. I got options. I can pass that like Stockton.
Like John?
Mm-hmm.
John Stockton?
Mm-hmm. Little Jack Harlow.
From Gonzaga. We have a good show for you here today. Busy show. We've got all of our regular Friday guests, plus, couple extra as
some rainbow sprinkles on top.
Yeah,
right?
We've got a little extra accoutrements on there. We've got Michael
Excuse you? Bless you.
Gesundheit. It is 8 o'clock. We've got Michael Rose-Ivey. He's going to help us preview Purdue, former Husker. He coaches high school football down in Missouri now. 8:15, we're going to talk to Martie Cordaro. He is the president of Union Omaha, as well as the Omaha Storm Chasers. But Union Omaha has a big semifinal match tomorrow. At 8:45, we're going to talk to Steve. Ooh, excuse me, got a little hiccup there. That was weird. We're going to talk to Steve Garnder of USA Today Sports. He covers baseball. We're going to preview the World Series. At 9 o'clock, actually the whole 9 o'clock hour, we're going to have our very own Mike Sautter. He is going to be in here.
Mikey!
Talk about the high school football playoffs, which kick off tonight.
Yeah, Class A underway, Class B, Class C.
I think 8-man started last week.
8-man started last week. Yes.
But all the 11-man kicks off tonight.
This is going to be I think they do. And I'm sorry if I sound like a little out of the know. Class D has football, right?
Yes. Yeah, that's the 8-man is when you get to Class D.
Well, that's D is 8-man?
Yeah.
D1, D2. Yeah, okay.
D is 8-man there. I'm pretty sure C is 11.
My head's in basketball mode a little bit when it comes to trying to decipher the playoffs, so that helps.
I'm pretty sure C is 11-man also.
C's 11.
Yeah, but 8 is where D is where you drop to 8. And then I think
thumb up.
I want to say I don't remember if they do 6-man in Nebraska anymore. They used to have 6-man football.
6-man football. How big was the field?
I don't remember. Honestly, I've never seen a 6-man football game in my life, if I'm being totally honest. I've seen 8-man because it's like wildly entertaining. It's sort of like arena ball.
So is 6-man 3 on the line?
I have no idea.
2 outside?
And
or is it 2
quarterback?
on the line? Or just 1 like center?
I have no idea.
You got to match it up, right? It's got to be 3 on the line. It's either 1 or 3.
I would think so. So if you've ever watched 6-man football, please give us a call on the Warhorse Sportsbook hotline, 888-638-4876.
I'm so curious.
I'll be honest, I don't know what I don't know, and I've never seen a 6-man football game. I've watched 8-man football. It's really interesting. I like watching it. It almost has to be 1 because I think 8-man is 3 on the line, right?
Yes. But can you have more? Can't you put more on the line?
I don't know.
I'm fairly certain you could have as many on the line as you really, as long as it's even on both sides.
Yeah, I'm not
like
sure.
If you wanted to run, why would it be a problem to have?
Well, it's kind of like
5.
the same deal with 11-man, right? Like you can only have so many on the
6.
line. So you might have to be like offset like a tight end.
Yeah, probably.
But I'm not sure the exact rules on it. I have watched 8-man football, and it's a lot of fun because it feels kind of like arena ball.
I never really pay attention though to how many people are on the line.
I don't either.
When I covered 8-man out in Sioux City, I was like, oh, the only people I have to pay attention to are the quarterback.
The skill
because
positions.
I'm building a highlight reel.
Yeah,
I'm building a highlight tape essentially.
Yeah,
and the quarterback tended to be the one that would either just do QB keeper or was like he was the best on the field. Let's just start by saying that. And then maybe 1 wide receiver.
Yeah.
Like there were 2 guys that you're like, okay,
that's what I have to pay attention to.
These are the 2.
Yeah.
And that's it on both sides.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then the free safety.
Basically, yeah. Because that was the guy that played quarterback on the other side.
Right.
But yeah, all the 11-man football kicks off tonight. Well, and this afternoon. You got some 4:00 games in there too. And then we've got Matt Vrzal. He wraps up the show on Friday, as always, at 9:45. We do have a little bit of time for you to join us in between all of that. As I mentioned on that Warhorse Sportsbook hotline, 888-638-4876. You can email us. I'm Ravi at hurrdatsports.com, or it's Andrew at hurrdat.com, or you can hit us up on Twitter. I'm at R.A. Lulla, and you are
Andrew Rogers CC.
There you go. Andrew Rogers CC. Thick with 2 C's, Andrew Rogers.
That actually kind of works now. Not the thick reference that Robbie just
you need
made.
some more protein. You did that?
No, it's like when you like CC somebody on an email. Like I feel like that's what you can do on the tweet. Like you just CC me.
Yeah, just CC Andrew Rogers on the tweet, and we'll be good to go.
That's how I'm going to roll with that from now on. Like
it used
to be coffee and cream.
Well,
like
sure.
The full reason for that, which I have my Beanery coffee with me this morning.
Oh, so you've got your coffee and cream from the Beanery, as always.
I have my Colombian roast.
You went Colombian this morning. Okay.
Which is medium. I think it's.
I know almost nothing about coffee.
Hold on. Yeah, it's medium. Yeah. Mix in a little bit of hazelnut.
That thing wet.
I don't need to be doing that today. It's way too cold to be doing this today. Hands are in the pocket today.
It's a little chilly out.
What a great day for high school football playoffs.
I'm rocking the bomber jacket. I'm ready to go. Staying nice and warm out here. All right, I think we just need to jump into the thing that we've been texting about for the last 24 hours.
What have we been texting about?
So, as you might imagine, the Michigan thing has more wrinkles to it.
Whoa!
It's you know how we thought it might have some more wrinkles? Oh, it does.
Well, it started with the Nebraska angle.
Yeah, so mid-afternoon.
No, this was toward the
toward the evening?
Yeah,
okay.
This was like dinner time.
So in the evening, Andrew and I apparently saw a tweet at almost simultaneously from the Omaha World Herald talking about how the Michigan cheating scandal has now invited Nebraska into the chat. And as Coach Prime would say, now it's personal. Apparently Connor Stallions, the spy extraordinaire, attended.
It seems like a novel at this point.
It is not quite as long as his manifesto, but still a novel.
I'll tell you what, though, by the time this is over, we're gonna have a really nice book. The biggest scandal in college football.
We're gonna have an incredible movie. Like Aaron Sorkin's gonna write this thing. It's gonna be great. I'm excited about it.
Starring Jim Harbaugh, Kevin James, who's known for his work as football coaches.
Sean Payton. No, you know who's going to play Ryan Day in this, though? Did you watch Suits?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's Lewis Lit is Ryan Day.
Lewis Lit
is Ryan Day.
The guy that looks like a tuna. Like his mouth is
angry all the time. He's got the Ryan Day face though.
He does have a Ryan Day face.
I haven't done any of the rest of the casting.
I mean, Harvey Specter, I guess, could be considered a Jim Harbaugh, but he's not old enough.
He's too pretty to be Jim Harbaugh. You need somebody a little bit more like Everyman to be Jim Harbaugh. I'm thinking like he's probably too old, but somebody in the like realm of a Paul Giamatti.
Okay.
Look wise, like pretty average looking.
Pretty average.
I mean, listen,
nice.
listen. I mean, I'm trying to think here who would be a good Jim Harbaugh. Just like an average looking dude. Oh, no, I got it.
Go ahead.
Friday Night Lights, Kyle Chandler.
Oh, that'd be a good one.
He's Jim Harbaugh. Yeah.
Jim Harbaugh, 59 years old.
It's absolutely Kyle Chandler. He's got the football
football
acumen.
He's about the same age.
He's 58. It's perfect. Look at him. That's Jim Harbaugh. Come on.
I mean, he's
a
Chandler.
He's a little prettier than Jim Harbaugh, but that's what movies do.
But see, the problem is I would associate that too much with Friday Night Lights.
Clear Eyes,
and I
Hearts.
almost think
Clear
you
Eyes.
would need somebody different so that you aren't thinking about Friday Night Lights when watching this.
Listen, he's a good enough actor. I think he can pull it off.
He's a great actor, yeah.
I'm not going to say he can't pull it off. I'm just saying, hey, guys, there could be somebody else. Cough, cough, Kevin James. Jonah Hill is Jim Harbaugh.
Honestly, like Brad Pitt could probably pull off Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah, I could see it.
He's he prettied up Billy Bean a little bit. You can pretty up Jim Harbaugh. I do like Kyle Chandler. Who are the main players in this one? Who plays Connor Stallions? Let me see what Connor Stallions looks like again, because I don't.
Connor Stallions is a young, like, in shape guy. Let's go with
like 30s, like early 30s.
Let's go with Channing Tatum.
No, too pretty.
Yeah, but you got to think about, like,
I'm thinking like Miles.
You look at Channing Tatum and Miles Teller. You look at Channing Tatum, and you think, okay, that guy, like, military movie guy, right?
Yeah,
could easily transition over to a role like that. Younger looking, good looking guy. Yeah,
I mean, you know who he kind of looks like in this photo here? He kind of looks like our other guy. He kind of looks like Mike from Suits a little bit. With the beard, a little bit.
Yeah, but Mike doesn't have facial hair. Like Mike from Suits is
not in Suits, but later on the actor
but,
does. Patrick Adams, I think his name is.
Yeah, no.
Who else here?
How about Kyle McLaughlin? No, he'd have to color his hair.
Kyle McLaughlin.
Who's Kyle McLaughlin?
Is he the one that sings in the
He's
arms of an angel?
And maybe I didn't say his last name.
Sarah McLaughlin.
Oh,
no, Kyle McLaughlin's way too old.
But I'm saying he'd have to color his hair.
To be Connor Stallions or Jim?
To be Jim.
Oh,
we're talking about Connor Stallions.
He could maybe be Jim. He could maybe be Harbaugh. I don't know if he's like forceful enough to be Harbaugh. Like he's got a little bit meeker of a voice, I feel like sometimes. I thought you were talking about to be Connor Stallions. I was like, what are you talking about, dude? That guy's like 60.
Right.
I was so confused, Shane.
That's what I'm here for.
Just to create confusion.
Preston.
But anyway, so here's the latest updates on this ridiculous story that I just love more and more every day. So the first thing that came out was mid-afternoon. It was the TCU thing. That's the first thing I sent you, was that TCU they knew that Michigan was cheating, and so they were giving dummy signals in that college football playoff game to throw Michigan off. And my immediate thought was, did a dummy signal lead to the 2 pick sixes? That was the very first thing I thought. And we'll never know, but I like to think in my heart that it did. So that was the first thing, was that everybody apparently that TCU talked to was like, yeah, they're going to cheat and steal your signals. You need to change those.
Which is pretty funny.
It's hilarious that it's
pretty
just
funny.
Everybody knew. Okay. So that was number one yesterday. We had 3 pretty major reveals yesterday. Number 2, Nebraska enters the chat. Connor Stallions attended at least 5 Nebraska, or he bought tickets to at least 5 Nebraska games. The 4 of those were at least attended. One of them, the tickets weren't scanned. So I don't know if that messes with your sellout streak at all. I'm just saying. But the 4 of those games he attended. Here's where it got weird with Nebraska. 2 of the games that he bought tickets to were Nebraska versus Michigan, which does not make a whole lot of sense as to why he would need to buy tickets to view Nebraska when they're playing them that day, or obviously to see Michigan. And then the third development drops yesterday that starts to make that make sense a little bit. And that's that it appears Michigan was leaking signals to other teams, not just using them for their own benefit. And there is not hard evidence on this yet, but there is some circumstantial stuff that's pretty appealing. And basically the thought is, and there's a decent amount of circumstantial evidence for this, is that Michigan was leaking signals to teams to help pave a more favorable path to and in the college football playoff.
Right.
And the biggest example was South Carolina, which ties it back
against Tennessee.
Yeah, which ties it back to Nebraska even more so last year, because Marcus Satterfield was at South Carolina at this time. So we know for sure that Connor Stallion purchased tickets to Clemson and Tennessee last year. Those 2 teams probably were not their biggest concerns in the college football playoff. So that is a little bit of a strange decision there. But
for which games?
For the Clemson Tennessee game.
Right.
So at the time, I think they were both still in the hunt,
Uh-huh.
right? The next 2 weeks, in which South Carolina the week before had only scored 6 points against, I'm trying to remember who they played before Tennessee last year, but they had only scored 6 points in the game before they played Tennessee last year. And then they go out, they play Tennessee. It was Florida. They was 38-6. They lost to Florida the week before they played Tennessee. They go out the next week. They play Tennessee, who, by the way, is dramatically better than Florida, although the defense not incredible, so that needs to be said. And they score 63 points against the number 6 team in the country after scoring only 6 points to unranked Florida. You know what else is strange about that South Carolina-Tennessee game?
What's that?
Apparently, that's the only game all year that South Carolina's defense wore wristbands.
Mm-hmm.
Why
the
would
entire defense?
Why would you need wristbands, Andrew?
Well, so that you could know what a play is,
what signals were being called.
Yeah, what a play is.
I
mean,
mean,
what play is being audible to, things like that.
That might be helpful. And look at South Carolina scored 63 points.
Yeah, and their quarterback threw for 438 yards
and 6 touchdowns.
And then
and
the
no
week
interceptions.
after he threw for like 370, and the weeks before that, I don't think he topped 250.
I don't think he topped 220.
220?
Yeah, it's not impressive.
Knock him down even more.
The following week, they knock off number 13 South Carolina 31-30, or number 13 Clemson, and those were the final 2 games of the season. Those were the best games of the season for South Carolina, and those were directly after the alleged leaking of information to South Carolina from Connor Stallions. So here's why I think this goes back to Nebraska, right? Because the first thing I thought before I even heard this last development was, okay, if he's scouting Nebraska, Michigan, when Michigan's playing Nebraska, is he giving that to someone else?
Absolutely.
Because that's the only thing that makes sense, right?
Well, so, okay, there's a couple of things.
Tell me what I missed.
One, was it 2021 when 2 people were in the stadium against that game?
Yes.
Against Nebraska, but they didn't have like great views of the sideline of Nebraska, I believe is what the article read. I'm trying to go back and think. Let's see if I have the information written down. Oh, okay, I do. The tickets were also in the northwest part of the North Stadium, not affording the best view of Nebraska's sideline. So that was in 2021. And then in 2022, that was the year that tickets were not scanned for the game, but both seats were low near midfield in West Stadium.
Yeah, where you would have wanted them to be to view the sideline.
So I actually think it was more than just having information on Nebraska. In 2021's case, I think it was pretty apparent when the 2 people were actually in the stadium versus 2022. But there were times in 2022 where he purchased tickets to Illinois and Minnesota the weeks leading up to the Nebraska-Michigan game. And those were the ones that actually weren't scanned in this whole thing. But in 2021, here's what I want to get to. So Iowa won the Big Ten West in 2021. They were 7-2. The team that came right behind them, well, actually, there were 3 teams. Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Purdue. They all ended 6-3.
In conference, right?
In conference play.
Yeah.
But Wisconsin was actually the better of the teams that year. Only Iowa was able to have less losses in the column, even when they lost to Wisconsin that year.
Yep.
So if you look at Iowa and you say, okay, Iowa 7-2, they lost to Purdue and Wisconsin in October, and then they beat Northwestern, Minnesota, Illinois, and Nebraska at Nebraska, the final game of the year. Correct? Well, why would you go to the Nebraska-Michigan game? Why would you have somebody in the stands for the Nebraska-Michigan game? Because I doubt it was for, hey, family, let's go watch.
Sure.
Could have been, but
possible.
But when we're looking at Connor Stallions, there seems to be a different motive every time he has a seat booked in a stadium. All that makes sense to me is he grabbed game film of Nebraska's sideline, sent it over to Iowa because they didn't want to play Wisconsin in the Big Ten championship game because they were the better team in the Big Ten West that year. And they knew they could get past Iowa, which ended up being what, like a 41-7 game, 42-7 game, something like that.
35-3, I think.
Well, so it was a blowout.
42-3.
Right?
42-3.
42-3.
Yeah.
An absolute blowout.
Yep.
That year in the Big Ten championship game, because that would solidify their spot in better position in the college football playoff at the same time. So there's this huge scheme that's taking place. And the mastermind behind it all being Connor Stallions and maybe more.
Allegedly.
There could be hidden some people behind the curtain pulling some strings.
I'm guessing this
he could be the face man.
Yeah, or the fall guy, one or the other.
Or the fall guy.
Yeah.
Maybe he's a little bit both.
Yeah.
But in this case, that's what makes sense to me. If you're going to grab any sort of signal about Nebraska, it's to give it to another Big Ten West team, ergo Iowa in this example, so that they can beat out Wisconsin, who Wisconsin beat Iowa that season
27-7.
27-7. Like that's a commanding victory.
Wisconsin beat Nebraska 35-28. Iowa beat Nebraska 28-21.
And Minnesota had to pick up wins down the stretch in order to be in the 6-3 spot. So that wasn't even a worry.
No.
But I'm sure they had something on Minnesota that year.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
And then you look in 2022, and in 2022, Purdue was the team that came out as 6-3. But Purdue, even in that game, everybody thought, this isn't very scary.
No.
Like, weren't they like 17-point dogs or something?
Yeah, it was bad.
And you know, Aiden O'Connell led a pretty good offense. Jeff Brom had a very good team that year. But out of all the teams to play, I feel like Iowa or Illinois would have been the scary one. Last year's Illinois team was pretty scary.
Yeah, defensively, they could stick with anybody. They were the best defense in the country last year.
And Illinois ended 5-4. I'm not saying that based on any information that we have that, hey, they had information about Illinois and we're giving it to like the Purdue's of the world. But if you look at Illinois' team, they lost like 3 games down the stretch of the season, and one of them was to Purdue.
There's even more to this story. We'll see if we can get to it coming up next here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. 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 We will be back.
So I go over there and say, don't listen to them. Go do this and go do that. So on Tuesdays and Wednesdays at least. So I enjoy it. It's a way for me to, I used to be a pretty good football coach before I was a head coach. And so it's a way for me to go do some football.
You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Edwards in to throw the football on first down. It's picked off by the Horned Frogs. Here comes Josh Newton. Newton inside the 20, down to the 10, touchdown. That's actually Bud Clark who stepped in front of it and comes up with it. Frogs get the first score of the game. Michigan finding out about TCU's speed. McCarthy, 4 receivers, looks, fires, it's picked off. D. Winters grabs it at the 20, at the 15, to the 10, touchdown. 27-yard pick six for D. Winters, the second of the game.
Welcome back. We're halfway through hour number 1 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. I'm Ravi Lulla. Andrew Rogers here with me on AM 590 ESPN Omaha and ESPN Tri-Cities. We are brought to you by our friends at Dingman's Collision Center. 4 great Omaha area locations throughout the metro. They are a family-owned and operated business in business for over 25 years here in Omaha. First place Best of Omaha, 18 years running. They can work on any make and model, and they've got the latest technology to do so. And because they are from here and they care about the community, they give back with every car repaired with their Dingman's Give Back program. Go check it out at dingmans.com. So continuing on with our Michigan rabbit hole here. We heard that call of the 2 pick sixes from TCU coming into the segment here. And so there's another wrinkle that I failed to mention in segment 1.
There's a lot that we haven't mentioned.
There's so many wrinkles. Yeah, there's just so many things. So another thing that got revealed yesterday, or at least I found out yesterday, was the way this whole thing started, right? So you had the NCAA investigation sort of broke the whole thing a week ago, I guess. It feels like it's been ages, right? But there was a notice that the NCAA was investigating this low-level staffer. Well, so it comes to light that the NCAA was actually tipped off by a law firm that had been looking into Michigan. And that raises more questions than it answers.
Raises the brow.
Number 1, why was the law firm looking into Michigan? Number 2, who's paying the law firm to look into Michigan? Because I don't know if you know much about law firms. They don't do a whole lot for free.
They don't do pro bonos.
They do sometimes, but not for stuff like this. Usually it's for
this is such a long-term investigation.
Yeah.
This is not pro bono.
No, usually it's like a single mom custody battle type situation where they're trying to help somebody out here. Like it's a 1-week deal and then they go back to their billable hours, right? This is a definite like billable hour situation here so who's paying for this? Who contacted the law firm? What was the law firm looking for in the first place? And there's a couple different theories here from my perspective, okay? And there's 2 things that came to mind when I heard about the law firm, because they allegedly had been like looking into Michigan's computer records and things like that. I don't know if they were getting those legitimately or illegitimately. I don't know. I don't care. But that reminded me of a co-offensive coordinator that was recently fired from Michigan for hacking into Michigan accounts like an idiot from a Michigan computer. Like, I mean, come on. These people that Jim Harbaugh...
Are you saying there's an FBI investigation that's still ongoing?
Well, yes, I am. So what I'm saying here is it doesn't look like Jim Harbaugh surrounds himself with the best and brightest necessarily in terms of covering their tracks. Like, if you're going to be a criminal, don't be a moron.
Yeah, but sometimes, though, if you really think about it, the mastermind behind the whole op, if it is Jim Harbaugh, tends to be the smartest guy in the room. And you do surround yourself with a bunch of dummies.
Yeah.
Because then
you're always the smartest guy in the room.
Well, not just that, but no one ever thinks it's you because these guys are so dumb to get caught on their own.
Yeah, it's like the Keystone Cops
right.
over here, just falling all over themselves.
It's kind of like the guy that never gets caught, right?
Yeah.
So I'm planning this whole thing. I'm not doing anything other than my job. And my job is to just coach football. But you guys are going to do all of this. You're going to get paid very well to do all of this. But, hey, you run the risk of getting caught, but you're cool with it because, hey, you've always wanted to coach at Michigan. Hey, you grew up always wanting to coach at Michigan, and here's your opportunity to do it. And if you don't get caught, you can stay.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's and you mentioned there's an ongoing FBI investigation of the former offensive coordinator for computer hacking. It sounds like, and I don't know this for sure, it sounds like the law firm maybe was doing some of that as well. They certainly were getting information about Michigan that Michigan probably didn't want them to have. But it begs the question, okay, so who has the motivation to hire a law firm to do this? Number 1, somebody that hates Michigan, right? That's easy. Notre Dame, Ohio State, somebody like that who's like, hey, I know, obviously TCU was told by everybody under the sun that Michigan was doing this. So somebody with an axe to grind against Ohio State says, hey, let's look into Michigan, right? Or somebody with an axe to grind against Michigan says, hey, let's look into Michigan. Most likely Ohio State, right? Or a disgruntled Michigan employee, such as your former offensive coordinator, whose name escapes me at the moment, that was fired for hacking into computers.
Mm-hmm. Now, okay.
Or we can go real galaxy brain here. And, if you're talking about Jim Harbaugh being the smartest guy in the room and setting things up, maybe he thought, hey, maybe the walls are closing in a little bit. Maybe he tries to deflect the attention to, hey, look at what this guy's doing. Look, he's like, I'm getting in a little bit of trouble here for recruiting violations. Hey, let's go look at what this guy's doing. Why don't we go look at what's going on over here?
Yeah, I don't think you really want that because you're still attacking your program.
You wouldn't think so, but who knows?
My question, though, is this. Is this a different law firm than the one that was, like, looking into the computers illegal, like the recruiting violations, the computers illegally? Is this a different law firm than that, or did it start there with this law firm and now it's ended with Connor Stallions because they just found this along the way?
Yeah, and that I don't know. That's
kind of my
possible.
question.
And that's probably the most plausible.
Probably.
Because they're already looking into it.
But if you're me, and over the last 2 days, you've seen that this guy created a manifesto, a 600-page manifesto of how he wanted to take over the Michigan program, and you found out that he had this well-thought-out plan from the very beginning to go to a military school because every coach that ends up at Michigan is a military
has a military background,
right? Yeah. Then what I thought, the first thing that came to mind was, hey, what if Connor Stallions hired this law firm himself? And Stallions said, hey, we're going to try to just get a little piece of this information. And then maybe it blows up in somebody else's face. And it's just another part of my master plan to be the head coach at Michigan someday.
Yeah, I mean, that wouldn't shock me because guys with manifestos tend to not think all the way through the consequences of their actions.
And now all of a sudden he's like, wait, this is too much spotlight on me.
Yeah.
We got to deflect again.
Yeah, he's like, no, you're supposed to figure out some stuff about other people. That wouldn't shock me. It is kind of funny that this guy has a 600-page manifesto and none of it was about how not to get caught or how to keep your Venmo private.
Hey, I don't know.
Maybe this is part of the plan.
We are only on chapter 30. and we're only 400 pages in.
Can somebody leak the manifesto, please? I need to know.
I want to know what happens in the last 200.
I need to know what's happening in this manifesto, okay? Because it's either going to be the most unhinged thing I've ever read, which seems the most likely, or it's going to be some sort of evil genius, and I'm still interested, okay? But somebody needs to leak the manifesto. We've leaked everything else. I need somebody to get me that manifesto ASAP, all right? This has to be coming out sooner or later. There's an investigation involved.
Right.
NCAA, you're basically useless. Just get me the manifesto. That's all I want. And then somebody read it and summarize it to me because I don't want to read.
This is going to be an episode of I Almost Got Away with It someday. And it's going to be one of the greatest episodes of that show of all time. But kind of what I think about here is I want to go back to that TCU game for a moment with the dummy signals. And I almost wonder if, yes, TCU heard hey, Michigan steals your signs. No one really knew how they stole the signs, but they knew that they were stealing signs, right? Until one school knew, and then another school knew, and then the NCAA knew, and now everybody knows. But TCU proved that, hey, if you do fake things and you throw up dummy calls, you're going to end up being victorious against this team. So they were kind of it's almost like the bully got beat in that moment. When you're watching a movie and the bully gets beaten by the nerd that always took punches throughout the whole movie. It's the good guy wins, right? At the end. So you see that, but then you probably saw other teams that are okay, we saw what TCU did. They did win. But I'm still sick and tired of Michigan doing this. So we got to just shut this down. As much as it's so-called legal, because it is legal to steal signs.
Yeah.
That's 100% legal in all sports.
Not
you
legal.
You just can't videotape a sideline during the game.
And you're not allowed to in-person
scout. And that's essentially what videotaping the sideline is doing.
Well, yeah, so those are two separate rules, though, because even if you're just at the game, that's still a violation. And then recording it is an additional one as well. Crazy stuff. I'm sure there's going to be more. For now, there is some stuff from the Rhule press conference yesterday that I wanted to talk about. We'll get to that next. You're on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
You know, I like to have those connections with those guys. You know, there's been some years where I do one day defense, one day offense. You know, I just think it helps me really identify young players. And I'll sit there and be like, why is Kane over here? Get him up with the defense. Why is James over here? You know, why is Sua? Why is Vincent? You know, if left to their own devices, offensive coaches will make the guys just run cards and stand here and get blocked, and they won't become good players. So I go over there and say, don't listen to them. Go do this and go do that. So on Tuesdays and Wednesdays at least. So I enjoy it. It's a way for me to, you know, I used to be a pretty good football coach before I was a head coach. And so it's a way for me to go do some football.
Welcome back as we wrap up hour number one here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. I'm Ravi Lulla. Andrew Rogers here with me as well. Maybe we did spend the entire break trying to figure out who would play Jim Harbaugh in a movie. Maybe we didn't.
Got it.
I'm still looking.
I've got it.
You gave a good submission for sure.
Like this is we're leaning above 50% here.
Okay.
In terms of possibility.
Let's hear it.
Jim Harbaugh's actor, or the guy playing Jim Harbaugh in this film.
Yeah.
Rob Dyrdek.
So he does have a look. He does kind of have a look.
Think about it. Think about it for a sec.
Yeah.
Rob Dyrdek, obviously younger than Jim Harbaugh.
Yep.
But even with a hat on, even though he smiles a lot,
he smiles too much. That's my biggest. But
hey, he can be serious in the movie. Like that's fine.
Okay.
But if you look at facial features, of both of the guys, you will find a whole lot of connection.
Here's my problem. I don't know if Rob Dyrdek can act.
We've seen him on Ridiculousness,
He's
right?
kind of a reality host person. I don't know if he can act. That's my issue.
There's a lot of people that can't act.
What about
that play in films?
Paul Rudd.
Paul Rudd. I kind of like Paul Rudd. He's too funny for me, though.
That'd be a great choice.
I think he could be serious. He's played serious before. I don't know. I think
Venti is 20.
You know what I think works about Paul Rudd is like Jim Harbaugh's kind of unintentionally funny. Like he doesn't mean to be funny, but a lot of the stuff he says is so ridiculous that you're like, what's happening here?
Mm-hmm.
Like we didn't have protein shakes when I called a kid. We just called it milk or steak or whatever.
He could be sarcastic. Like that's a good one.
I think Paul Rudd could work.
I guess I was looking off of like straight physical appearance.
Appearance. Like Paul Rudd is close enough physically, but Dyrdek looks more like Jim Harbaugh for sure. But I feel like Paul Rudd could pull off the like unintentionally funny shit.
Matt thinks Dennis Quaid, and Travis tells me not to quit my my job to be a casting agent. All right,
I mean, Dennis Quaid already played. Who did he play in that Rams movie? Dick Vermeil.
He did.
He played Dick
that
Vermeil.
He did. That was the Kurt Warner movie.
Yeah.
American Underdog is what you're referring to.
I said Rams, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the Rams. I mean,
yeah, but it's
about Kurt
It's about
Warner.
Kurt Warner. It's not about the Rams.
Well, I mean, he did play for the Rams.
Yeah, but it was more about, hey, Kurt Warner's at a grocery store right now. And then he went to go play arena football, and here he is.
I'm just going through Marvel actors, apparently. Mark Ruffalo could maybe do it.
Yeah, let's get off the Avengers. Will you please?
Never. I love the Avengers. If you were doing like a satire.
Yeah, he's over here like Samuel L. Jackson. Like, yes.
Let's do Chris Hemsworth. That's probably who Jim Harbaugh would pick to play himself in the movie. Right. Scarlett Johansson is Jim Harbaugh.
Yep. Mm-hmm. That sounds right.
So there was a couple things from Coach Rhule's presser yesterday that I actually thought were interesting. First of all, I did think it was kind of funny. Oh, John says Rob Lowe.
John's been on one the last few days.
Rob Lowe's pretty good.
He's tweeted at us one time per show, and they have all been
money.
Absolute cash.
Yeah.
Like from Damian Lillard downtown in his debut with Milwaukee.
Just like
all
a cool
3
39,
shots,
no big deal.
Nothing but net. He's been money.
Rob Lowe's a good one. That's a real good one.
It's Rob Dyrdek.
Rob Dyrdek will play the body double.
Rob Lowe's great, but Rob Dyrdek.
Rob Dyrdek can be the stunt double for him. No, there were a couple things that Coach Rhule said in his presser yesterday that, first of all, I thought it was funny that he was like, hey, I was a pretty good football coach before I became a football coach. That was a little amusing.
Hey, Rob Lowe likes football too. Let's be real.
I also, I understand what he's saying, though, because you actually, a lot of times you don't actually get to coach that much as a head coach because you're doing all the other things, right?
That's why he says he stresses out about everything throughout a game. And that was in the press conference on why he wasn't going to go to the volleyball match last Friday.
Yeah. Because
Saturday.
Yeah, Saturday. But yeah, it's a little funny because you would think as like a head football like it's mostly administrative. Like you're a manager. People use the term CEO all the time. But I honestly think that's, especially in a place like Nebraska, like there's smaller schools where you can be a head football coach and still be like nitty gritty in it.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, I think that's one of the reasons Scott Frost didn't do well here, among other reasons. But I think he wanted to coach football, and that's not really what the head coach job is here. Like the head coaching job is a management and public relations position more than
because at UCF it was more of a coaching role.
Yeah, at some of the smaller schools where
Oregon he was a coordinator.
Yeah. At some of the smaller schools where you don't have to do all the other stuff around what, like all the public relations, all the management, because you don't just have your football staff, right? You've got an enormous like support staff and all, like the number of people that directly support Nebraska football is enormous.
Mm-hmm.
And Matt Rhule's in charge of all of them, right? So there's some people that's just not the skill set that they bring to the table. It's one of those things where, I don't know, like I'm sure a lot of people listening have been in situations where they're like in a sales role or something like that. And then they make The Office is a great example of this, right? Steve Carell, Michael Scott was a good salesman.
I thought you meant Our Office here. I'm like, Steve Carell, who plays him?
I've never been to Our Office. Steve Carell is Jim Harbaugh.
Hey, it's Get Smart all over again.
Actually, you know who low-key like kind of has a Jim Harbaugh vibe is Dwight. Like he's kind of a weirdo.
Identity theft is not a joke, Jim.
Like, I feel like if
millions of Americans are affected by it every year.
If Jim Harbaugh didn't become a professional football player and then high-level football coach, I feel like he's in an office somewhere acting like Dwight, where he's like, fired preparedness. Let's go.
So anyway. The Office, Matt Rhule, Steve Carell.
So like Steve Carell in The Office, Michael Scott is a really good salesperson who good enough to get elevated to manager, but that's totally not the skill set that he has. At least especially early in the series, right? He's not a good manager because he was a good salesman. Like those skill sets are not related. A lot of times these position coaches, coordinators, stuff like that, they have to either learn a new skill set to become a good head coach or use a skill set that's totally different from the skill set that got them to where they are. It's a very strange dynamic, and I appreciate Coach Rhule kind of just actually acknowledging that because that's not something a lot of people talk about. The other thing that I really liked that he said yesterday was he was talking about there's only 29 days left in the season, which first of all made me sad. Only 29 days left in Nebraska football season makes me sad.
Obviously, I want to win.
Okay,
I didn't.
Thank you.
I didn't either. And they said it. I was like, why you gotta do that? Why you gotta do us like that, Coach Rhule? But he said, hey, we can do anything for 29 days, which I took to mean, and you could tell me if you're there, or if you heard it this way or not. But I took that to mean like, hey, we can execute at a high level for 29 days. We can be a better offense than we have been for 29 days. We can figure out we don't have any running backs. We don't have any wide receivers. We're out of all of our offensive linemen. We can figure anything out for 29 days. And I just really appreciated his kind of ability to compartmentalize and say, hey, it feels really big when you say, hey, these guys are missing for the rest of the season. It doesn't feel as big when you're saying, hey, we just got to do without them for 29 days. And I thought that perspective on it was really good.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Going back to your CEO point real fast, I've always kind of been on the Matt Rhule CEO train from the very beginning, just because of the way that he's operated. And frankly, I agree with your point about Scott Frost too, in the sense of when Nebraska was looking for their next head coach, they needed somebody that was going to act more like a CEO, a hands-on CEO, but just a CEO, because with Matt Rhule's background, you don't put him in the situation you do at Baylor if he can't handle it from a CEO type of view.
Yeah, 100%.
He's just not in that role.
Because he wasn't there just to fix the football, right? He was there to fix everything that was going on with
you. Don't put him in Carolina. You don't give him that opportunity in Carolina if you don't think that this guy can act as a CEO for his team, a bad Carolina team. And he steps in and he tries to make it work, and it just didn't happen because there were other faults on him that caused him to fail in Carolina. And the biggest one was he cared too much about his players. He didn't want to cut his players.
Yeah.
And that's why he fits so much more in college football than he does in the NFL. But at Nebraska, it just made a whole lot of sense because you're picking up a broken program. You're picking up a program that hadn't won games for a handful of years. Like they won enough, but they didn't win to put them in bowl contention.
It's not good enough.
And that's exactly. It's not good enough. It's where you want to be. Like that's where they're going. And to have them in that spot right now, like projected to get there in year one, only a really solid CEO can do.
Absolutely.
Only a really solid CEO can flip the script and say, hey, we're not going to do this anymore. We're going to do it this way. And so then going to your point with 29 days left, it's all about work ethic. It's all about going from a good team to a great team. I don't know if you saw the most recent GBR rewind, but it was all about discipline. And it was about separating the fact of, hey, you're not a great team. You can be there, but you're not. You're a good team. You're not a great team. And sometimes harsh criticism is what people need. Because if you beat around the bush, nobody's going to get better. No. Nobody's going to think better. No. In any situation. You just have to get to the point. And that's Coach Rhule. He gets to the point. And that's why he's taken so seriously. Because if you're too nice, the nice guy gets pushed around. If you're too mean, nobody's going to like you. If you find some of that in between ground where he cares for you, but he also expects a lot from you, then you're going to get the best possible result. And that's where Coach Rhule is right now.
Yeah, and it's a harder line to walk than I think people realize. Coming up next, we're going to talk to our friend Michael Rose-Ivey, get a little preview of Nebraska and Purdue here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
That offense is scary. The return game, the returners are scary. They have 3 back now, so he's obviously going to be in the mix. So they have dynamic players in those areas.
And on defense, Coach Walters, I mean, they're going to get off the bus and they're going to play man and they're going to pressure us and they're going to blitz us. And, we're going to have to make some plays and pick those things up with a new group on the offensive line. So it's an even matchup. This is a great game. This should be a great game. It should be a great game right down the wire. And we'll just try to play our best to get to the fourth quarter, try to make one more play than the opponent and hope that we win the game.
Welcome back. Hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. I'm Ravi Lulla. Andrew Rogers here with me as well. We are brought to you by Big Brothers, Big Sisters. They are on a mission to support one-to-one mentoring relationships that ignite the power and promise of youth. Go to mentoromaha.org to sign up to become a big, or you can also donate money, donate tickets to events so that already existing matches have some activities to participate in. You can also invite Big Brothers, Big Sisters to your business. You can sponsor events. You can do all sorts of things by going to mentoromaha.org. We talked to our guy, Eric Bird, earlier in the week, and he gave us some really good information about just the impact that mentoring has had on not just him, but on his little as well. And we really appreciate Big Brothers, Big Sisters for supporting us. Shane, do we have MRI? Okay. Joining us now is our guy, former Husker, current high school coach, Michael Rose-Ivey. Michael, how you doing this morning?
Good morning, man. My apologies, man. I'm wrangling up for ISS.
No, you're all good, MRI.
Doing well.
You're all good. As we let's focus back on the Northwestern game before we look ahead to Purdue. When Coach Rhule says things like, hey, earlier in this season, we wouldn't have won this game, what does that mean to you when you hear that?
I think because it wasn't pretty, and as far as the sense, I think that maybe how, a lot of Nebraska fans, I saw the video of one guy was saying, because, it's a 30-point game and, they go out and they have a win that looks really, really impressive. It's what's seeming to be a down and kind of a real in Northwestern program, obviously with the stuff they have to do with this off season and just trying to get through this season. But I think it's just more so the adversity. Obviously the injuries that are piling up is almost, not ridiculous, but something to question at this point. How many guys do you have to be able to say next man up? So I think for Coach Rhule, just seeing those guys, the young guys, the receivers, O-line, and some other positions having to step up, I think that's something that I think he's proud of to see that that development, the structure that they're working with that currently it is helping get guys ready to play if they need to be.
Michael, it wasn't the easiest to watch, but who cares when the outcome is a W against Northwestern in a game full of hard to watch plays? What were you impressed with? What moments had you saying Nebraska did this well and that's why they won?
I mean, obviously, the continuation of the run fits and stopping the run is whoever you go against, being able to stop the run and being a physical upfront defense will always be impressive to me. I think that even despite the situations, obviously, the interceptions and, other things, the field position battle that kind of was a struggle. I think as far as the defense and how they're stepping up and just continuing to show themselves, showing themselves worthy of being black shirts. I think that's been the most impressive thing. Obviously, the offense is still struggling, trying to find, what is the identity. So, definitely the defense.
Hey, Michael, before we move on to the Purdue game, I did want to ask you, obviously the Michigan sign stealing thing has been in the news a ton. As somebody who's kind of been in that position in terms of on the field, how much of a difference would it make if you knew either the signals that the offense was calling in, or if the offense knew the signals that you were calling in on defense? How much of a difference does that actually make?
I think for a player, I don't necessarily think that's information they would share with the players because that's too much a process.
Okay.
Maybe a guy who's he's a football head. He's always in the football. He's, hey man, here's some tips and keys and whatever. But I think more so for the coordinators, and you obviously videos you see of the guy being next to the coordinators and kind of saying stuff. I think for the coordinators understanding, hey, if I got to check with my team and I know what they're checking to, I should know going into the game what my next call is instead of it being more of a not I won't say reactive, but in the moment type of thing where you're really analyzing the situation in front of you. This is more sort of premeditated. Hey, they're going to power on third down, then our call is we're going to blitz 2 off the edge and send everybody down and smack the running back. So I think you have a little bit easier game planning process. But yeah, it's interesting. I tweeted out last night that it's definitely going to be a ESPN 30 for 30 position. It's becoming increasingly more entertaining as we go, especially with TCU finding out that they knew it and they were doing dummy signals, and you see how that game went. So it's very interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah, so we've actually spent a lot of the morning trying to cast the inevitable movie that is going to be made out of this thing. So we're kind of right on the same page there with you, Michael. But so you're saying from more of a less than like an in the moment, the players are kind of adjusting to what signals they know, and more of the coordinators and their game plan. So if this was a situation where you knew what the offense was checking to or things like that, would you be able to, as a coach or coordinator, would you be able to show that you were trying to do one thing, but that's actually, again, kind of a dummy call and you were actually in something else to get them to do what you wanted them to do?
For sure. And that's not the end all be all. Then I think you'll look at some situation where, hey, like when they're in maybe a certain formation and they do check with me, what is their tendency to go to, things like that. And you kind of use that information along with obviously knowing the signals you have to put your players in the best situation possible. And it takes a little bit more stress off you. Like I said, it's knowing, their next chess move, right? Before they even really know it, right? And like you said, you give them those guys, hey, we're kind of bait them to get them into the look we want to get them into because we know what the next call is going to be. It just takes you makes the offense more predictable, obviously, and like I said, put your guys in the best position to be successful.
All right, Michael, here's the question, because this is what I'm going to end with this Michigan scandal, because I feel like I need some outside opinions on who should cast Jim Harbaugh in this movie. Should it be Rob Dyrdek, Rob Lowe, Paul Rudd, or John Hamm?
I'll go Rob Dyrdek because I haven't heard Rob Dyrdek's name at all.
All right. Think about this too, man. You can look up Rob Dyrdek today and think, man, that guy looks a lot like Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah, you can definitely make it happen. Put him in some bands and give him a skateboard and I think he'd do a really good job. I think he would enjoy it.
All right, let's get back to actual football now instead of the storyline that we want to go down in that rabbit hole. Talking about this matchup, Purdue, Coach Rhule called this an even matchup yesterday. Do you see it as even?
I do. I mean, again, just looking at where programs are in the context of where everyone is, they're 2-5, and the record, obviously will show it. But I think Coach Rhule is looking for every edge, man. I think he feels. I mean, like everyone's been tweeting out. Everyone's looking at the end of the schedule. We obviously there's high possibility to be in the bowl game with how the schedule's playing out, and if we continue to play. So I think he's trying to find every edge. Obviously, Coach Walters, he has some personal blood in the Nebraska, Colorado rivalry, and as do Coach Kevin Kane, who's here from Kansas City. He played at KU, also played against Nebraska. So, I think for everyone, especially with being new to their pro routine, new to their programs, everyone's just trying to find, an edge and get their kids to be able to play at a high level and go get a win, in the tough Big Ten. So I think both teams are going to play with that edge and play with some aggression, and I think it's going to be it may be a little bit of more of a I guess pushing and shoving, and a little bit maybe a little more personal. I think with the coaches involved, and not even between them, but just with the team and what they're trying to do with their programs. I think it's going to definitely be one of those type of games where you'll see a little bit of the edge.
We're talking with Michael Rose-Ivey, former Husker, current high school coach. Michael, the weather around here is supposed to be a little dicey tomorrow. It's going to be cold, might have some precipitation as well. Is that something when you look at, okay, you've got Graham Harrell as your offensive coordinator, you got Hudson Card and maybe an offense in Purdue that's trying to get things going through the air a little bit more. How much do you think that might be an advantage for Nebraska to have the elements not be ideal for throwing the football around?
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that's always tough with those type of offenses when you have to play in those weather games. I mean, being able to throw the ball is a big part of success in a lot of offenses nowadays. But having a run game that is at least able to extend drives in short yard situations and possibly get some big plays, I think that's something that's not really obviously Graham Hurrell played under Leach, so that's not something he was coached under or probably coaches or his philosophy. But I think for them the weather is going to be a big deal. But these are athletes that have played in many conditions, understanding that where they are in Indiana, the weather and type of things is getting a big deal. I feel like that's not going to be as big of an issue, but I think it's going to be being able to see if they're going to want to run the football in the weather and kind of playing at Nebraska, which may not be a good idea with how Nebraska's been playing in the run. So it may be a little bit more spread out attack or getting the ball out on the edge. So that'll be intriguing to see how Purdue kind of adjusts their scheme and their philosophy in context of how Nebraska defense has been playing against the run.
Michael, speaking of scheme, how well do you think the Nebraska defense matches up with potentially what we think Purdue wants to do? Because I know Nebraska's been great against the run this year, but originally the 3-3-5 was kind of designed to deal with some of these spread offenses. How do you think they match up against Purdue?
Sorry, I lost you a little bit. Say that one more time.
Yeah, how do you think this defense matches up against what Purdue wants to do schematically?
I think the structure lends itself to being able to play against more open sets and spread sets. I think the personnel, obviously Nebraska has up front, does assist them, and I think just the way they get to their run fit, they do a lot of different things with their back end guys and how they fit them. But I think as far as DBs, I think they can handle what they do. I think they're going to do a lot of coverage rotation in cover 3 and cover 2. Getting in cover 1, and I think the big key is again, we saw it last week in Northwestern, how much pressure they got on the quarterback. If Nebraska can get pressure on the quarterback and make Hudson Card have to make decisions with people at his feet and guys in his face. But I think as far as the structure that the defense is, was kind of created for, I think you can definitely handle the sets they're doing. Personnel wise, I think, like I said, there'll be a lot of switch ups and coverages and matching up guys against the receivers.
Michael, for Nebraska to be a great offensive team down the stretch of the season, you'd like to see who emerge at the skill position to give this team sustained success?
You said, who am I looking for?
Yes. Who would you like to see emerge at a skill position, at any skill position, to give this team sustained success on offense?
It's got to be at the quarterback spot. I mean, I'm not sure, which guy is going to be. I don't know if he's healthy. Is he available?
Yeah, he is. They believe he's a full go now.
But maybe instead, because that could be an easy answer, take Heinrich Harburg and Jeff Sims out of the equation. What about somebody different?
Somebody different. I would say Grant. I mean, obviously he's had the issues with the fumbles and things like that. But I think in getting stability at the running back position, I mean, obviously outside the quarterback spot will really help. And it's tough looking at that running back spot now, and obviously seeing the O-line injuries, expecting and wanting more explosiveness out of the running game. But he's a guy, like Coach Rhule said, he's a guy that can play on Sundays. Like he's got some things to clean up in the ball security area. But I think he's definitely a guy that still has that ability. I think he's still giving him a guy I think could really burst out and have a good game this week and give an opportunity.
Michael Rose-Ivey, former Husker. Michael, we appreciate your time as always. We'll talk to you again next week.
No problem. Appreciate you guys.
Hey, thanks, man.
That's our guy, Michael Rose-Ivey, previewing Purdue. We're going to switch gears here in just a minute and get to our guy, Martie Cordaro from Union Omaha. They've got a huge matchup this weekend.
I think that's an understatement.
Yeah, so we're going with massive. Massive semifinal matchup against Charlotte on Saturday. They won the league. They ended up top of the table, as they say, and now they got that home field advantage for the semifinal against Charlotte. And joining us now is our guy, Martie Cordaro from Union Omaha. Martie, how are you this morning?
Good morning. It's chilly getting us ready for tomorrow, but, I keep telling everybody, if you want to go to the warmest place in the metro tomorrow, 4:30 is Warner Park. So we're excited to host Charlotte here, and the team hasn't lost since July 22nd, so it's been quite an historic run, and we're really proud of what they've accomplished to this date. But our second season, if you will, begins tomorrow at Warner Park.
Yeah, you mentioned haven't lost in a very long time. 14-game unbeaten streak, 13 of those outright wins that shot you all the way to the top of the table for the regular season title in USL League One. I guess, what did that mean to you, and just being able to, because I believe 2 years ago you won the regular season as well. Last year, you mentioned that run in the Cup kind of took a little bit of the wind out of your sails during the regular season. How much did it mean to you to get back to the top of the table this year?
Look, it means a lot. 21 was different. We were pretty much wire to wire. We were predicted to win. We did regular season. We did postseason. This year there were a lot of unknowns. Mm-hmm. You move away from the system that we had when Coach Mims made the decision to step away from the club, and everything he accomplished was amazing and appreciated. And then we hired Dominic Casciato, and we hired someone that we gave Coach Dom the mission of scoring more goals. Mm-hmm. And even to the point where we said we would rather lose 4-3 than win 1-0, meaning we wanted a more exciting brand of soccer. And the first third of the season was transition. You had more than 50% of the players new. You had a new system, new head coach. Obviously, it's another new year. So there are a lot of factors. And by the time June rolled around, you could see this team really start to pick up the system, start to gel. And then by July really is when the winning started happening. And yes, you mentioned the Open Cup run last year, which was historic and made us the darlings of American soccer, if you will. But it did take a lot out of the club. And I do believe because we didn't have a deep run this year, it really allowed this club to focus on the task at hand, and that was finishing at the top of the table this regular season.
Martie, you talk about building an exciting brand of soccer. It's the playoff. It builds that itself. Like it has its own entity. But you're playing a Charlotte team that Union Omaha snagged a win against, has a loss against, and a draw. So now playing for the fourth time this season, and you'd have to expect this matchup to be a bruiser and go the furthest distance possible, because anytime you play a team 4 times in one season, that's kind of what happens, right? You figure each other out. What do you have planned at the stadium, though? Because you guys do such a great job of building a huge venue atmosphere in a smaller stadium. What do you have planned for this exciting semifinal matchup?
It's the playoffs. We don't have post-game fireworks. We don't have another Rashid Nuhu bobblehead and some of the other things we've done. The focus is really on the sport. That's our focus is the soccer, and you're going to see the smoke. You're going to see the music. You're going to see the chanting. Parliament and our other supporter groups will be there. So, come. Whether you come early or not, I'll let the fans decide if they're going to tailgate or not with the weather we're going to have. But come loud, and that it's 2 hours, so you can commit to that 2 hours, because we're going to need every single person that has supported this club, or every single person who's a soccer fan that maybe has not tried Union Omaha soccer yet. Come out tomorrow. There are tickets remaining, and 4:30 is first kick, and we get that one under our belt, then we know what's for us at the end of the next week would be hosting the finals at Warner Park as well.
Martie, you mentioned, the atmosphere. I finally made it out to my first Union Omaha game. Ironically enough, when the last time they played Charlotte, and it was a 4-1 win, but that thing was neck and neck for a long time. And then the goals late kind of came as an avalanche to create that margin there. I guess just how much fun has it been to watch, as you mentioned, this team kind of go through transition, kind of get their feet under them sort of in late July, and then watch the wins pile up and see not just the wins, but the wins come in a way that you sort of envisioned when you hired Dominic Casiato to create a more exciting brand of football. And like I said, those goals tend to come in bunches.
They do. And I would say this, our general manager, Peter Marlette, did an amazing job of putting a talented squad together. You know, a lot of the club core was already put together by the time we hired Coach Casiato in January. And then obviously Coach and Peter worked to fill out that roster before camp started. But I'll offer a couple of things. One, you know, the support was always there for Coach Dom along the way. And I think someone who doesn't get enough credit is Rashid Nuhu. You know, yes, the goals allowed this year are up, but he was playing unbelievable soccer at the beginning of the year. And while none of us were happy with the amount of draws that we had, if you look at that, that's what kept us in it up until the time that we figured out the system offensively. And Nuhu has had another amazing year, and he's the all-time League One record holder, for clean sheets. So I think Rashid doesn't get enough credit because all we've talked about July is the offense. Mm-hmm. But Rashid's also had another great year. The other piece is this team's really unselfish. You know, we've had a few injuries. Noe was out for a while, and we've had some others, and then we obviously, unfortunately, lost Connor Doyle for the year. Toward the end of the year, our one of our team captains, and has been with us for 3 seasons. It's the unselfish nature of the team. We don't talk a lot about individuals, and Coach Dom has really been able to get everyone to buy into the team approach, and that's what. When we announced back on May 1st of 19 that we were bringing the franchise in, we wanted this to be something for the community. We wanted the team to truly be a team and not just individuals. And then obviously since then we've coined the phrase "one means all," which is our club motto. And that is true, not only in the community, this being a club for all different types of fans and community goers, but also one means all in the team sense on the field. And, we look to see that continue tomorrow at 4:30 at Warner Park.
All right, Marty, before we let you go, we got about 30 seconds here. Let the people know, how can they get tickets? How can they be a part of what's going on tomorrow?
UnionOmaha.com is your easiest way, UnionOmaha.com. And if you haven't been and you have questions, 402-738-5100. That number again, 402-738-5100. And look, gates open tomorrow at 3:30. Come on out. Come loud. If you don't have any Union gear, we've got a lot of good cold weather gear, so we're ready for you. We'll see you tomorrow at Warner Park. Appreciate you guys supporting local sports.
Of course, that's Martie Cordaro, president of Union Omaha. They play in the semifinals of the USL League One playoffs tomorrow afternoon at 4:30. Marty, we appreciate you as always, buddy.
All right, take care, guys. Have a tremendous weekend.
You too, man. Thanks.
All right, coming up next, we've got more of Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up on AM 590 at ESPN Omaha and ESPN Tri-Cities.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. Sports Radio.
Rangers ready to explode over the dugout rail. Their fans behind them standing. 1 ball, 2 strikes. 2-out pitch to Tucker. On the ground to second. Should do it. Simeon goes to first. And the Texas Rangers, 90 wins in the regular season, fly cross country. And their journey will bring them to the World Series for the first time since 2011 as they roll over.
We will be back.
Seawall, the 1-2 for Carroll. 2011 Seawall, the 1-2 ball right field, playable for Carroll. Near the line, Carroll under, he's got it, and that does it. The Arizona Diamondbacks are going to the World Series. The Cinderella run of the Arizona Diamondbacks continues. They're the National League champions, and they knock off the Phillies.
We will be back.
Continues. They're the National League champions.
Hurrdat Sports Radio.
1 ball, 2 strikes. 2-out pitch to Tucker. On the ground to second. Should do it.
Sports Radio.
1 ball, 2 strikes. 2-out pitch to Tucker. On the ground to second. Should do it. Simeon throws to first. And the Texas League champions.
You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We are halfway through the show here on a Friday. Andrew Rogers with me. I'm Ravi Lulla. We are live on AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, and we are brought to you by Rockbrook Camera. Rockbrook Camera is not just trying to sell you a camera. They're trying to make you the best photographer you can be, whatever that means for your life. If you're trying to be a professional photographer, already are a professional photographer, or you're a guy like me, you just want to take quality pictures to share your memories with your friends and family, Rockbrook Camera has you covered. They have the latest technology you can try out, such as mirrorless cameras. You can trade in your old gear to upgrade, or they have an extensive rental department to help you figure out what you need. If you just need something short term, or if you just want to try some things out, it is a great way to try before you buy. And once you do buy, they've got unlimited support after the sale, such as monthly classes to help you learn and get acquainted with your new gear. Make sure you check out Rockbrook Camera in Omaha, 168th and West Center, or Lincoln, 70th and Pioneer, or anytime and anywhere at rockbrookcamera.com. All right, so I am in the practice of sending random things to my co-host here during all hours of the day and night whenever I find something interesting. Lately, it's been a lot of TikToks about Michigan
Sure has.
theories and information that is unveiled. But I also sent you something yesterday about from the Ringer, and I enjoy these stupid little prompts, and it was basically, okay, if you have to choose, you're Nebraska, right? All your top 4 wide receivers are gone, okay? And
Right.
you've got somebody in the transfer portal that's eligible immediately. You're
Okay.
ready to go.
Okay.
The 2 guys in the portal are prime Jerry Rice,
Mm-hmm.
pretty good,
Mm-hmm.
or Spider-Man.
Peter Parker.
Who are you taking? And he can't use the webbing to catch the ball. He can't use the webbing. I think that's an important distinction here. Cannot use the webbing. So, like, if it's over his head, he can.
Right.
Like,
well,
he can,
obviously, you take Jerry Rice. Then you take away Superman's
no,
power.
hold on, no, just the webbing, because he's still incredibly fast. Spider-Man is.
Is he incredibly fast though, or is he just incredibly fast because
He can like catapult himself
Yeah.
through. I don't know. He is
using
very
his webs to
strong
make
though,
him
because he can
incredibly
hold
fast.
on. I don't know.
But it's like, here's the thing about Spider-Man.
also, what kind of a route runner is Spider-Man? That's
Here's
what
the
I
thing
need
about
to know.
Spider-Man.
All
Like,
right.
Spider-Man is, yes, is it the real Peter Parker or is it like Tom Holland?
Okay, so tell me the difference here.
Well, so like the real Peter Parker was bitten by a spider.
Yes. Yeah.
Like that's I can't remember the actor's name.
Tobey Maguire.
Tobey Maguire.
Yeah,
Thank
the
you.
original.
But Tom Holland's just in a suit created by Robert Downey Jr., Iron Man.
Yeah, so he was also, I believe, bitten by a spider, though, because I think.
I don't think he was ever bitten by a spider.
So they didn't show the origin, but I think I don't know.
I think he's just in a Spidey suit created by Iron Man.
So if it's just
because his webbing comes out of his suit.
So does Andrew Garfield's, though, and he was bit by a spider. Only Tobey Maguire actually produces his own webbing.
Well, so which helps my case even more. Like,
Sure.
So you're talking about.
So let's say it's
Tom Holland, and
let's say it's Tobey Maguire. It's Tobey Maguire.
It's the guy that was bitten by a spider.
Yes. So he does have some superpowers, but he's not allowed to use webbing in the football game.
I think I'm still going with Jerry Rice
You're going
because
prime Jerry Rice here,
even if you're like quick like a spider,
and he is short. Like Tobey Maguire's short. You gotta be.
But even if you're quick like a spider,
yeah,
that doesn't help you all too much when it comes to like the mental part of the game. Like you have to know the game to be good at football.
Now,
I don't know, but you can't just have like the skill sets and just be automatically fantastic at football.
Peter Parker is incredibly smart.
He's smart, but is he football smart?
Well, you'd think he'd be able to pick it up. That's all I'm saying.
Maybe. Like he can do backflips like Tyreek Hill. We saw that in the opening fight scene, like in the school where he
very athletic
through the lunch tray.
Great
at Flash, I believe.
Yeah, at Flash, he's got incredible reflexes. We saw him catch the stuff on the tray. Okay, so we can assume he's got good hands there. I think you're dismissing Peter Parker too quickly.
Nobody works harder than Peter Parker. I mean, that guy, he goes to school, he's up all night fighting bad guys. He can get knocked down, he gets right back up. It doesn't hurt him.
So he's
a machine.
Honestly,
are you talking about Spider-Man gets hurt? Like every time he battles, he gets beat up. So it's not like he just doesn't get hurt.
So
he gets sore. He may not be as susceptible to injury as Jerry Rice if he was hit by a truck.
Although Jerry Rice only injured one time in his entire career.
I mean, because there are times where Parker gets thrown, like he gets cars thrown at him. But then again, he uses his Spidey senses.
Yeah, he does have the Spidey sense
to maneuver,
which Spidey sense could be very useful while maneuvering through a defense.
Sure could.
Now Spider-Man does bring a lot of baggage, though. I mean, if he's going to be out at all time of the night doing different things like fighting bad guys and stuff like that, I mean, I don't know if you really want to have a guy on your team doing that. And he's got like 3 or 4 different girlfriends. I mean, he's got a
hey,
lot.
Don't tell us. Maybe Jerry Rice may have had something going on.
He's got a lot going on.
Peter Parker, he's in school. He's probably trying to get.
Well, I mean, we're talking about for Nebraska, so being in school is a positive.
And we're talking about prime Jerry.
Yes. So Here's a couple things that I'd be worried about with good old Peter Parker. Okay.
Okay, so TK says Tom Holland was bitten by a spider. I still don't think that's true.
I think he was. It just wasn't shown. Like the
suit he wore though was created
by Tony Stark.
By Tony Stark, and he was like, it was like that was the
super suit, but he had his own suit.
I think he still had
made.
I think he still had. Yeah, because remember, because before Tony Stark shows up, he's running around in pajamas basically and fighting crime.
Was Tom Holland bitten by a spider?
So here's my concerns with Spidey as a teammate and as a football player. Okay, nobody's arguing the physical skills. The problem is this guy had a hard time making it to his regular classes. Okay, he was, despite being borderline genius, still was almost failing out of school because he was always off fighting crime and doing other things. Right? You're telling me this guy's not going to miss any offensive meetings? You're telling me this guy's going to be there for practice all the time? I'm not buying it.
He's got to save the world.
Jared, that's what I'm saying. What if you're in the middle of a 2-minute drive and his Spidey sense goes off that some grandma's getting robbed down the street? He's leaving. Jerry Rice ain't leaving for that. He's finishing that 2-minute drive.
Yeah, but you could also think about like the defensive back taking the football away from your team. That's stealing too.
That's true. I don't know that
maybe he's weighing his options.
I don't know that he cares as much about that as he does about Granny getting robbed at the corner store. So I mean, honestly, I think it's a commitment to football issue here. I'm not sure Peter Parker was going to give you his all. Like Coach Rhule's always talked about, hey, we need the guys that want to be here 100%. How much does Peter Parker want to be there? How much does Peter Parker want to be a football player? That's what we need to know.
Well, Jerry Rice has all the skill sets to be a good wide receiver. Nobody knows what Spider-Man brings.
That's true.
I'm taking the proven guy out of the
He's a huge wild card. What's that, Shane?
Would Peter Parker be playing football because he can play, whereas Jerry Rice is playing because he wants to play?
How many times have you seen Spider-Man play football? Never. How many times have you seen Jerry Rice play football?
Several.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
End of story.
And you could make an argument, Jerry Rice, he broke his leg, came back the same year. Maybe Jerry Rice has some superhuman healing abilities too. We don't know. I don't think anybody ever tested his blood.
Not in the MCU has there been footage of Tom Holland being bit, but they say he was. There's
no footage.
I do question you, Thomas.
Though I don't see Peter Parker playing anywhere outside of the East Coast. I mean, he's an East Coast.
He is a New York guy.
He's a New York guy. I mean, he'd be at Rutgers. He'd be somewhere. He would
be at Rutgers.
Maybe he would have played for Matt Rhule.
Is that because he's red and white? Because Nebraska's red and white too.
Maybe he would have played for Matt Rhule at Temple. We don't know. They used to say Matt Rhule was an East Coast guy, and then he went to Baylor and he came to Nebraska. I think he's okay.
I don't see Peter Parker moving off the East Coast.
You don't see him coming to Lincoln?
No.
I don't know.
I'm still on, was Tom Holland ever bitten by a spider?
I believe he was. I believe he was. Because
So do we want to go off belief or do we want to go off what we see?
I'm going to go off of belief.
Because it's believing seeing?
Is seeing believing.
Definitely. Seeing is believing. Seeing is knowing.
So you're going Jerry Rice.
I'm going Jerry Rice.
I'm going Jerry Rice too, but for very different reasons. I don't think Peter Parker's committed to football. That's my concern.
Well, you have some outstanding information to show he's not committed to football.
I love Jerry Rice. That's my guy. Him, Tim Brown together. I mean, that was the Raider duel right there. But I'm gonna have to go Spider-Man.
Man, Shane is the only person in the world that
Peter Parker and Spider-Man have a better chance of being the photographer on the sidelines than he does being a wide receiver.
He is a heck of a photographer. We know this to be true.
He could probably steal some signs pretty easy.
Is Peter Parker actually Connor Stallions?
Tom Holland, Connor Stallions. Shane's the only person in the world that hears Jerry Rice and thinks Raiders.
Damn right.
He thinks Raiders all the time.
Coming up next, we're going to talk a little bit about the World Series that starts tonight with Steve Garnder of the USA Today here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
1 ball, 2 strikes, 2-out pitch to Tucker. On the ground to second, should do it. Simeon goes to first, and the Texas Rangers, 90 wins in the regular season, fly cross country, and their journey will bring them to the World Series for the first time since 2011.
Seawall, the 1-2. Swing and a high fly ball right field. Playable for Carroll near the line. Carroll under it. He's got it, and that does it. The Arizona Diamondbacks are going to the World Series. The Cinderella run of the Arizona Diamondbacks continues. They're the National League champions.
Wrapping up hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. I'm Ravi Lulla. Andrew Rogers here with me as well. Joining us now on the Warhorse Sportsbook hotline is Steve Garnder from USA Today. He covers baseball for them. Steve, how are you this morning?
I'm doing great, Robbie. How are you guys?
We are doing fantastic. Excited for the World Series to start tonight. Let me start with this. If somebody had told you at the beginning of October that Arizona and Texas would be matching up for the World Series, what would you say?
I think you're trying to get me to make a sucker's bet somewhere.
There's a bridge in Brooklyn I could sell you too.
Precisely. That's the same guy, I'm telling you. But this is highly illogical, unbelievable, but yet here we are, and these two teams have certainly earned the right to be there. They've been outstanding. They've come through in the clutch, and when they're down, So yeah, this is an exciting matchup, despite not seeing these teams as household names by any means during the entire baseball season.
You mentioned not really being household names, but the Rangers did go out and buy a bunch of household names. I mean, maybe they didn't have the best regular season, but out of the two, are they less surprising that they made it here out of the two matchups?
Most definitely. And, the Rangers at the beginning of the year were and always did have one of the top offenses in all of baseball, but we couldn't really take them seriously because they had this huge slump in the middle of the season where they looked like maybe one of the worst teams in baseball. And that allowed the Astros to get back into things, and the Mariners as well. So that whole AL West was just kind of a big dogfight there. And yet this team has come together in October and looks like the team that was one of the better ones at the beginning of the year, even despite not having, Jacob deGrom, who they lost at the beginning of the season.
Which I think people forget.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, when you talk about, going out and getting teams, I mean, getting top players, deGrom was at the top of the list, this offseason. And he was the guy that I think a lot of Rangers fans and maybe the Rangers front office felt like was going to put them over the top and give them, that pitcher to have, that ace in October. And yet they're here, and deGrom is nowhere to be seen.
Hey, so speaking about pitchers, the Rangers have Eovaldi, Montgomery, and Scherzer as their top three. Arizona has Gallen, Kelly, and Fat as their top three. So knowing each team starting rotation, who do you think has the greater advantage there?
Well, I would say just from the surface, you would think that Texas has the advantage. I mean, Eovaldi has been very good in the postseason, Jordan Montgomery as well. And then Max Scherzer always, we know throughout his career, every time you think you want to underestimate him a little bit, he comes back to prove you wrong and takes great delight in doing that. So those guys, because they're established, because we know them. Eovaldi's had, he's been on the postseason stage in the World Series before with the Red Sox. We know a little bit, maybe more about them than we do about the Diamondbacks. Certainly about Brandon Pfaadt. I mean, he's a rookie who may be pitching better than any other starter in the postseason, even though he hasn't gone, deep into games. He's had more swings and misses than anybody, and has been excellent, and has been kind of the stopper for them when they really needed a strong start and needed to get back in the series so far in these playoffs. He's been the guy to provide that.
Steve, talk me out of this here, or maybe tell me I'm right. I don't feel great about the Rangers bullpen. Every time they go out there, it feels like they are just on some kind of high wire act, even though you do have some names there that you're familiar with. And, depending on how you feel about Aroldis Chapman, I've never totally trusted him. I guess talk to me about the Rangers bullpen. And is that, in your mind, possibly where this series shifts?
I think both bullpens will play a huge role in who wins this World Series. And you're right, the Rangers have been shaky. Jose Leclerc has been able to nail things down. They've leaned on him a lot. Bruce Bochy has to get those final outs, and sometimes more than three. And Chapman, he's kind of like the wild card. And you're right, and very wild a lot of times.
Keyword wild there,
Yes, he can't find the plate sometimes. So when it comes time to match up, when Corbin Carroll comes up late in the game, or Alec Thomas or one of those guys, but especially Corbin Carroll, that's going to be the matchup that Bruce Bochy is probably going to turn to, is Aroldis Chapman versus Corbin Carroll to get that big out. So far in the postseason, you'd have to say that's an advantage for Carroll. But nevertheless, I think one of the things is the Rangers have gotten Josh Sborz, who was not great in the regular season, has been lights out in the postseason, and that's been big for them. And but yeah, I think this is one of those where, as we've seen in the postseason, starters aren't going very, very deep into games, and it makes it a bullpen game. Maybe sixth inning,
certainly by the 7th, 8th, and 9th. So all of those guys are going to have to deliver. And if there's one weak spot in any of the chain in either bullpen, it could cost them a game.
Steve, Texas has been the far better offensive team this playoffs, but the D-backs do have the hottest hitter in baseball leading off their team in Ketel Marte, despite how many bombs Adolis Garcia hits for the Texas Rangers. When you look at that piece of the game, how badly does Arizona need guys like Christian Walker, Tommy Pham, and Evan Longoria to heat up to be competitive at this stage?
Yeah, I mean, Christian Walker was one of the keys to the Diamondbacks offense this season, and he's sort of been a no-show in the postseason. And, you know, as we've seen, things can turn on a dime. I mean, Corbin Carroll earlier in the playoffs was in a pretty bad slump and then turned it around late in the series against the Phillies. So I think it's still possible. Tommy Pham did hit a home run, you know, against the Phillies after slumping for a good long time. So it's certainly possible for guys to kind of put that behind them. And I think, you know, with a couple of days off, you get a little bit of a reset to where you're not looking at your, you know, your stats from the last series. You can kind of wipe that away and say, okay, we're starting fresh. And I'm sure that's the mentality that Christian Walker is taking into this World Series. And he's going to be a huge part of it if the Diamondbacks are going to win.
Steve, I want to ask a little bit more of a big picture question here. I know you said you were excited about this matchup, but it seems like a lot of people in the baseball world are not as excited about it, mostly because the top teams throughout the regular season got bounced really early in the playoffs this year. What level of concern do you have about that? Do you kind of just look at it as an aberration, or I guess just talk me through that process? Because there seems to have been a lot of hand wringing about the way the playoffs have gone compared to the way the regular season went.
Sure. Well, the thing is, though, you look at baseball, the baseball games themselves will tell you whether the series is compelling or not, first of all. So we have the great unknown as we go into this World Series. But let me ask the other question is, for those baseball fans that say, oh, you know, who really cares about the Diamondbacks and the Rangers? Did you want to see a repeat of last year's World Series?
Sure, yeah.
I mean, I think
nobody wanted the Astros in there, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of people, you know, they complain about baseball and they say, well, it's the same teams all the time. That, you know, I'm sick of the Astros or I'm sick of the Dodgers, and we've seen too much of the Braves this season. If you want a little variety, this is the World Series for you. So I think it's one of those where people will find ways to complain no matter what the World Series matchup is. So why not just embrace it and say, hey, look, here are some people that maybe I'm not as familiar with. Let's see how good they really are. And then when you start seeing players like Gabriel Moreno, you know, the young catcher for the Diamondbacks, who you want to make some parallels. I mean, Yadier Molina as a 23-year-old, you know, led the St. Louis Cardinals or helped the St. Louis Cardinals to a World Series championship back in the day when nobody really knew who he was. And that was a team that wasn't very highly thought of either, you know, an 83-win team, you know, kind of like the Diamondbacks coming in. So we know what Yadier Molina's career turned into. Could we be seeing the beginning of that kind of a player? You know, those types of stories develop over time. You could be looking back at this in 10 years and say, oh, wow, look at all those great players that we were just getting to know back in that World Series. So there's plenty of stuff that's compelling, at least for me.
Steve, 30 seconds here quickly. If you were a betting man, where would you lay your Mattress Mac money on this series?
I still think the Rangers, the offense from top to bottom is what really impresses me. And there's no weak spot in that Texas Rangers lineup. They've been able to bash everybody so far in the playoffs, and I think they end up doing it again in the World Series.
Hey, Steve, we appreciate your time. Real quick, remind me, who won that World Series that Yadier Molina was in as a rookie? Can you just remind me real quick?
I believe the Cardinals did. they? Yeah, they did.
Oh, it's all right. We got to. I mean, he was in the 04 World Series that the Red Sox won too. That's the one I was talking about.
But Mike Matheny
that's okay.
was the catcher that year. Let's not get that wrong.
Over the Tigers. Yeah.
Yeah, let's not get that
You're
wrong.
talking
Thank you,
06.
Steve, for the clarity.
I'm talking 04. That's all right. Steve, we appreciate you as always.
Take care. Thanks, guys.
See you, man.
That's Steve Garnder from USA Today. Coming up next, we've got Mike Sautter. Talk a little high school football playoffs. Let's go.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Oh, yeah, no doubt, no doubt.
Mike Sautter.
Yeah.
Mike Sautter.
Oh, man, you're going to put me on the spot.
Mike Sautter.
Kicking off hour number 3 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. I'm Ravi Lulla, Andrew Rogers here We are joined now by Mike Sautter from Hurrdat Sports and NEB Preps. But before we get to Mike, I want to tell you about our friends at the Teammates Mentoring Program, founded by Dr. Tom and Nancy Osborne in 1991. Their mission is to positively impact the world by inspiring students to reach their full potential through mentoring. 1 in 3 young people will grow up without a mentor, and the Teammates Mentoring Program is looking to help bridge that gap. Mentors and mentees meet in school during the day for about 30 minutes once a week to play games, chat, whatever comes up. You can find out more and learn how to become a mentor today at teammates.org. Our very own teammate, Mike Sautter, joining us here today. Mike, how are you this morning?
I'm good. I just had to scratch my nose. Gosh, I can't hear myself talk.
Can we get
like normal?
Yeah, we get a little more.
You guys get this
Is that it?
figured
Is
out?
that it?
A little more juice?
Yeah.
Is that better?
I'm gonna fix the camera.
I'm telling
during
you,
the
I think
break,
I think it's this cord because even when
it's all
Avery
right.
was in, I had to turn it all the way up for you guys
good?
to hear
Is that better?
each other.
It's all right.
You
Yeah.
good? Better?
Yep,
Good?
Good.
Okay.
Straight.
Hey, Mike, we were kicking...
Someone told me before we get started here.
Yeah.
Someone told me that this is the best hour of sports talk radio.
Was that your wife?
In a
or-
week.
Latham?
No. My kids or my wife. And I was like, well, I don't know. But
you guys are all trying to tweet that news out, so I'll give you a second.
At least Sautter is.
I'll wait for you. That's all right. No, I got that this morning. So
Well, good. I'm glad that people enjoy it.
Mike, we were talking earlier on in the show because like we opened up with, hey, it's high school football tonight. It's cold, but it's high school football tonight.
NBA.
And, I was kind of going down the list and I asked Ravi, I go, is D like 8-man? And he's like, yeah, D's 8-man, but I'm not actually entirely too sure if it's 8-man or not. So then when you came in, you obviously cleared things up for us. But then we started talking about 6-man a little bit and we're like, gosh, 6-man, how big's that football field? And you said what?
It's the same as 8-man.
Same as 8, which means it is so open. It's like a soccer pitch.
I may,
point, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 40 and 80 or 80, long and 40 across. I'm pretty positive.
But the wildest piece of information that he shared was you can basically do whatever you want in 6-man.
It's basically like rugby out there.
Yeah, it's just pitchy witchy woo woo. You just throw it around, whatever.
An alignment like your center
could
also be your leading touchdown scorer.
As long as the play is started in 6-man, as long as the play is like you have to hike it, right? And
so it's gonna be a traditional snap or like a backwards pitch or whatever.
Yeah.
So again, it's
very
a
traditional snap. And then
is that not how you start every play though?
Yeah, a traditional snap has to be the first play, and then our first, a hike.
Start the play,
and then it has to be a backwards pass. As long as the ball is touched by that person backwards, like they can throw it again, they can run, you can do whatever.
So you have
a lot of people don't because it's a little hard. I mean, it's really hard.
So as long as it's like a lateral, essentially.
Yeah, it's
like
so you have the snap and then a lateral, and then you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
I would do that every
This
play.
sounds incredible.
Instead of a jet sweep, you are actually running behind me.
Hey, the 6-man state championship game will be, I believe, it'll be the 17th of November in Kearney if you would like to go.
Let's go. Are you going?
Is Mike Sautter going?
Maybe.
Let's road trip out.
I didn't go last year, but I went to 2 years.
I would road trip with Mike.
Are you guys going?
When's November 17th? Is that a Friday? Sometimes state championship games are like Tuesday.
Yeah.
We should do the show.
It's the Friday before.
Live from Kearney.
It's the Friday before the 8-man and 11-man playoff finals on that Monday and Tuesday at Memorial Stadium. But they play
at UNK.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see what we can do.
Hey Shane, we're gonna be remote on November 17th. You can be here though.
We're going to Kearney. Yeah. Shane's like, yeah, get out of here. No, that would be I would seriously run the most ridiculous offense if I was a 6-man coach.
What are the scores in games like that? Like the games that you've been to?
A lot.
Because
like
they're
50.
8-man scores are high, so 6-man have to be
6
just as high or higher.
It's like playing 3-on-3 full court basketball.
It's like flag football,
basically.
So it's like flag football.
You can go like I remember one play when I was in college, and intramural's play always worked for us. Always worked for us. It was trips right or left, center under. So you just center snaps the ball, the three that are right or left, and the receivers, they just run it off, right? Like just sprint or do a post route or something, and the center just cuts right under. If we needed 7 yards, you would get 7 yards. If we needed 5, you would get 5. It was good for a solid 5 to 15 yards every single time.
See, the intramural play that always worked for me and probably would work in 6-man too is the stop and go. Like you don't even need trips anywhere. Like just put one wide receiver out on the side and they're going to run like a quick 10-yard route. They're going to turn. You're going to get a pump fake from the quarterback every single time the DB bites. And then the wide receiver just goes and you have a 70-yard, well, not 70 because I don't know if it's 70 yards in. Well, I guess it could be if it's an 80-yard field, like a 70-yard touchdown pass. Like that play works all the time, though.
Yeah.
Like if you really think about it.
Yeah.
Now intramurals it's easier than if you actually have
but because
IQs
you
out
don't
there.
have a ton of bodies out there, it's harder to have help over the top, right? So if you get a hitch and go.
So here's a good example. So Parkview Christian plays at 2:00 today in the playoffs. So their scores are 53-21, 60-14, 54-17. They lost the game 18-13 to Pawnee City, and then 26-12, 59-16. So kind of normal-ish. Yeah. Okay. Speaking of, did you guys see while we're on 6-man? This is wild. So, people complain. I've been on this train. I've said this before about travel, right? And like how teams from Omaha that go past Lincoln, that's like a huge deal, right?
Right.
Well, there's a 6-man game today. If you did not know this, and we've kind of
where am I looking on the bracket here?
You're looking. Well, I'm talking mileage.
I know, but I want to see like the matchup.
Pawnee City.
Okay, Pawnee City. Got it.
Okay.
4 against a 13.
Yeah, and they play
Sioux County.
Sioux County is like as South Dakota, Wyoming,
the furthest northeast.
That's northeast Nebraska.
You know where Pawnee City, northwest
Nebraska.
Yeah, it's extreme northwest.
Correct.
The farthest northwest.
Okay.
They play Pawnee City. You know where Pawnee City is? About an hour 10 south and a little east of Lincoln.
Okay.
So you're driving catty corner across the entire state.
It's 8 hours and 20 minutes or something. 16 minutes.
So they left now.
One way. They left yesterday.
I was like, they probably left yesterday. Yeah.
I mean,
or Wednesday.
The fans going to the game are leaving now.
You can go from Memorial Stadium to Chicago quicker than you can from Sioux County to Pawnee City for a 6-man game.
That is.
Say that one more time.
You can go from Memorial Stadium in Lincoln is shorter going from Memorial Stadium to Chicago than it is from Pawnee City to Sioux County.
I mean, just think about that for a moment.
That's crazy. Like that's nuts.
Yeah.
And the hard part is, if you're a passenger princess, like I would like to be in a road trip like that, you'd much rather go from Memorial Stadium to Chicago because you have 4 hours of sports. Well, actually, more 5.5 hours of sports betting once you hit on it. Right? But if you're in Nebraska and you're going to this high school game, you can't do anything.
Yeah.
You just got to drive.
I am interested to see. I guess I haven't asked, but I'm interested to see what Sioux County did. Did they leave Wednesday, stay in Kearney, and then get to stay in?
And you know what's
Kearney
worse about that too? And I haven't seen any.
They
of
probably
it.
left today.
I'm just basing it off of sheer record. But Pawnee City's 8-0.
Yeah.
Sioux County is 5-3. Like if I can just base it off a record here, it seems like Pawnee City would be like the team,
favorite,
right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so if you drive 8 hours to lose, and then drive 8 hours home,
yeah. But think about the experience, though. Like,
I'm sure it's great.
Like,
yeah,
like that's the part of sports that we don't talk about is the like lifetime memories that you will create with.
I'll tell you what,
teammates.
though, anytime just losing like in a big game like that, it hurts.
Mm-hmm.
And how often? Well, I guess in this case they would have to stay at the hotel that night.
Probably get over it by
the time morning hits and you're driving home.
By the time they've taken the Oregon Trail back home, then they're probably they're just happy nobody got dysentery and they didn't have to ford a river in order to get back home. No, that's crazy. That is an absurd trip to play a high school football game. Good on them though, because I know I talk about it all the time, so I'm not throwing anybody else under the bus here, but the Class A teams from Omaha, they're like, oh man, we got to go to Kearney, we got to go to Grand Island, we have to go to North Platte. It's 4 hours, 5 hours out there. It's terrible. But you're going 8-hour trip for a high school football game that's bonkers. You could end up in Oklahoma City by that. Like legitimately, you're pretty much in Oklahoma City at that point.
You're Little Rock,
that's like 6 hours, isn't it? Like you could get to Fayetteville and play University of Arkansas in less time.
Go a lot of places. You get from here to
Denver.
Yeah, Denver.
I'll say Minneapolis is like a 5.
5 minutes.
Yeah.
You basically could get from Omaha to Denver quicker
than you could get from Pawnee City to Sioux County.
Yeah.
That's bonkers.
Who would have thought Mike Sautter would have started this off with some 6-man talk today? No, everybody at home was thinking Class A talk right away, but no, we started from the bottom. Now we're here.
Listen, we got my guy for a whole hour. We'll get to all of it. Obviously, we do have Class A.
Hey,
real quick, 8-man though.
Real quick.
We're going in reverse order.
Before we get too far here, because I see this the YouTube comment. Can we talk about how great Avery Howard is at her job?
Why? Because Avery Howard posted.
She is great.
She is awesome at her job. But is that why she is
super underrated?
Is she underrated at this point?
I think there's still people that don't even know. Like she's really good. Like I
maybe because I've surrounded myself with her for like 2 or 3 years now that I don't think I thought she was always that good.
She's way good.
But I wouldn't consider her underrated. But maybe in the grand scheme of things. That could be right.
I've told her that, like not publicly, but I just wanted to say it publicly. Like she is really good.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we had.
I'm not even joking.
Wednesday?
Yeah,
we had her on Wednesday for a whole hour. Obviously, I've done a couple full shows with her as well. Yeah,
wasn't the best hour of Sports Talk Radio though.
No, that was obviously the hour where we talked about whether you would want Spider-Man or Jerry Rice as your wide receiver one.
I had no idea what you guys were talking about.
Well, I mean, it was pretty simple.
I don't even know who those people are.
You don't know who Jerry Rice is?
What?
You don't know who Jerry Rice is?
I know who Jerry Rice is,
okay.
but
he looks a lot closer to Jerry Rice than he does Spider-Man.
That's true. He does have the bald hair and the
whoever
beard.
You guys were talking about.
You don't know who Spider-Man is?
I know what Spider-Man is, but not the names of the people.
When's the last time you've seen anything Spider-Man, like a movie?
The very first one?
Probably never.
Never? You didn't see Tobey Maguire Spider-Man back in the day?
I don't even know who that is.
You know who Tom Holland is, though, right?
No idea.
Do you not watch movies at all?
No.
I don't know.
What's the last movie you saw?
Oh, we went like kids movie.
What's the last non-kids movie you saw?
I don't know.
Oppenheimer?
No.
Loved Oppenheimer.
I haven't been.
I don't know. I was trying to name
I go to a movie theater maybe once or twice a year. Maybe.
And it's usually a kids movie.
Sometimes it's kids movie. What was the last one that was? I don't forget.
At least Oppenheimer is real. I
mean,
we
went
it's
like 2 months ago.
It's not like watching Spider-Man because I know you don't like the fake stuff.
You went 2 months ago to a movie? Was it a kids movie?
Kids, yeah.
Oh, I don't care what happened in kids movies.
I forget what it was. But it was actually pretty good. I thought for a kids movie. I don't know. I do more of the like I'm trying to watch the Beckham documentary.
Oh, I watched that. Yeah,
I've watched episode 1 and 2. Well, it's kind of wild.
It's really good.
I've yet to see any of it.
It's really good.
It's good. You should watch it.
Yeah.
Anyway, this has nothing to do with.
It's fine.
Well, it's funny because you bring up Avery, and now everyone's reminding us how much better she is at 20 questions than we are. Thanks, Sautter.
It's Guess Who, not 20 questions.
It is Guess Who.
How dare you?
Guess
also, I won the segment. I get you. Listen, this was a very much like Josh Hamilton home run derby moment. Like everybody's going to remember Avery for the moment. I am Justin Morneau. I won the home run derby.
Hey, Sautter, give us this crazy stat about 8-man here with Nebraska recruit Carter Nelson.
Yeah, Carter Nelson. So he is in the, I don't even know what you call it.
Nebraska commit, I guess.
Yeah. 555, 555, whatever.
You know how they have like stolen base leaders and home run hitters in baseball, like when Acuna did the 40-40. People
are
like, oh
it's
my
basically
gosh,
like a 40-40,
40-70.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, the 40-70.
Yeah. First person I remember doing that was Jose Canseco when I was a kid. But anyway, the 40-40 club, all that, you know, those sort of things, which is actually a real club now. Thanks, Jay-Z. But Carter Nelson has it's likely never been done in 8-man or 11-man. I do know 2 6-man people, thanks to my guy Tony Chapman for the nod on this. But so Carter Nelson has 604 passing yards, 1,060 rushing yards, and 626 receiving yards. The only 2 players that have ever done that before that we can, and I talked to like people that would know. The only 2 people that have done that are in 6-man, and that was Noah Velasic from Riverside just a couple years ago, and Luke Caston from Potter Dix a couple years ago. They're 6-man players. So pretty rare error. Like
500 receiving, 500 passing, 500 rushing.
I even went like, did Larry Frost do it? Because like he was kind of did a lot of stuff. I mean, I talked
the amount
to
of digging you had to probably do.
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay. You didn't.
Yeah,
he outsourced.
Yeah,
he outsourced his digging.
Tony did that for me. Tony Chapman did kind of went in on that for us, for me, but it was actually his idea. Like a couple weeks ago, he's like, he's getting close to doing this. Has anyone seen this? And so then, I mean, I talked to like the Nebraska High School Hall of Fame president Chuck last night. Talked to Stu, who's a historian, basically.
Yeah.
Talked to my guy Bobby Mills, who's also kind of a historian on that stuff. And
1,000-yard guy,
what we
Bobby
came
Mills.
up with. So yeah, Carter Nelson with the triple 500. And think about this: if they make it to, there's a very real possibility that if they were to make it to the state final in Lincoln, that he would have 1,000, 1,000, and 1,000.
Because that's what, 4 more games?
Yeah, 3, 4. Yeah.
Yeah. So because they play tonight, and then so 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
To win, to make it to the play in the state final.
Yeah. Tonight's gonna be a tough one. How's Dodge is always good.
How's
Mike
Dodge is
Spears
pretty
really
good. They face off at 5 p.m. tonight with Ainsworth.
Because that's a little bit of a drive.
So 4 extra games. He could be.
Could do it.
And I don't know how far you got in this. Would he be the first 1,000 ever?
Oh yeah, I for sure.
I don't know what the.
I mean, I would.
I mean, how crazy that would be.
But I don't know how much the 6-man guys beat the 500 mark by. You know what I mean?
That's like.
Is Barry Bonds the home run leader? Come on.
I mean, listen. I don't know what the numbers of the 6-man guys
I think
were.
that's a for sure. Like, I don't think that's even.
Okay. I'm just asking.
I would be shocked.
You're a resident high school guy. Yeah, why don't you find out?
Noah Velocic was just a couple of years ago, actually.
As we move up
basketball at UNK
into 11-man, obviously we've got Class
Real
A.
football.
I didn't say it. I didn't say that.
You wanted to.
I know I didn't want to say it.
It is real.
Well, I mean, it's more.
I don't even know why, but it's technical, right?
I'll use traditional football. It is the traditional style of football we're used to seeing. Obviously, you've got Class A and B, Class C and C1 and C2 as well.
Yeah, question about C2 real fast.
Yeah.
If I can stop you there.
ahead.
Is Cedar Catholic a team that gets all the way there again, Mike?
It's going to be tough.
Like that's an underdog team of last year, though, too.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Because Norfolk Catholic is Norfolk Catholic.
They're the clear favorite in C2.
Is anybody standing in their way in C2?
Ord's lost 2 games, right?
Mhm.
And they were against Norfolk Catholic and Battle Creek when Battle Creek was number 2 to start the year and was number 2 the whole year.
What's Oakland Craig's loss?
Norfolk Catholic.
Okay.
But it was close at the beginning of the year.
Is that what you just said?
No, he was talking about Battle Creek.
Battle Creek, yeah. And Battle Creek has some injury stuff they're dealing with that is going to be tough for them to move on too far in this thing in C2. But Oakland Craig and Norfolk Catholic or, C2 is very interesting, I would say.
So you think there's teams that legitimately have a shot to knock off Norfolk Catholic or no? Not really.
It's going to be tough.
Oakland Craig is the best shot, probably.
Oh yeah, Oakland Craig or
that would be your
Newman
final.
As an 11 would be real tough.
Okay, that'd be an interesting one.
They go out to Mitchell. And
again, though, both of those
pretty
teams
good.
that you guys just mentioned would be the final.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
On the
Is there
bottom side.
anybody
On the
prior
top side
to
of
the
that?
final?
Oh, I don't know. I don't think so.
Like you said, because Battle Creek's beat up a little bit.
Yeah.
So that would be a tough one.
If Trent Euler's out, which looks like he's probably out. That's going to be tough. Yeah.
Kearney
Real
Catholic
tough.
probably
Does Kearney
can't
Catholic
provide
steal one there?
a lot of
They're
resistance.
young. They're a little still young. Next year's probably the year they get back in the
for them.
Yeah.
Even against Battle Creek? Okay.
Oh, do you mean this game? Yeah, maybe. Yeah, they could. I
They
could
could
see
be
that
Battle Creek
happening,
there.
depending just because of injury stuff. But
Hopping over to C1, Wahoo number 1 seed, Boone Central number 2. Where's the cutoff line for you in terms of tiers in C1?
well, DC West is pretty good. DC. So Boone Central's been the number 1 ranked team in our coaches poll the entire year.
And they were given the 2.
Yeah, that's just wild card points. So
Right.
But DC West played. Their 2 losses are Wahoo and Boone Central, and Boone Central was like 19-14. Like it was close in Albion, which is saying something. So it's a little more open here. DC West is scary, but they go to Broken Bow. DC West probably maybe wins that. Pierce is defending champ. Keenan Valverde is really good. That's a rematch against Roncalli. Roncalli's dangerous because they can score enough. Ashland is really good.
Yeah, they are.
8-1 Ashland.
And
they lost to their losses to Wahoo.
Yeah, that's the team I'm kind of paying really close attention
yeah,
to.
Dane
right
Jacobson
now.
or Brady McGill, probably the two best, pure-ish quarterbacks, I guess, in C1. So it's a little more open, I would say.
What about that Auburn Ogallala matchup in that 7-10?
Harry Caskey's a good player. Ogallala's coming on towards the end of the year here. Beat Sydney. That's Sydney's one loss is Ogallala 2 weeks ago. So
out of the
Aurora at 11 is pretty dangerous.
Okay.
But that is a rematch of a game
6-3?
that Adams Central won like 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
But it was really close.
Do you have a special rooting interest there because of your relationship
Baylor?
with some
No.
Creighton basketball player?
No. Aurora's had some heck of players, man, come through there. It is there. Coach Peterson does a terrific job. They are, I'm telling you, like, they've had some fans, Austin Allen. Like, I mean, they've had some, not even just guys with their breath.
Really good guys.
They've been really good. They're an 11 seed this year, but just wait.
They're coming.
Yeah, they'll be fine. Booker's only a sophomore, so.
Out of the lower classes, so below.
Lower class? Is that what we're saying?
They're lower than class, like lower enrollment.
The Leonardo DiCaprio's of the Titanic,
I just wanted to be real clear.
Enrollment?
Lower.
I've said that before, and I got yelled at by people.
I mean, the enrollment is less in the class C
fine.
and below, right?
Yeah.
Is that fair?
No, that's fair.
Okay. In the lower enrollment classes, is C1 the most competitive in terms of? Yeah.
Mhm.
That's the one you're keeping the eye on.
Yeah.
Is it the most competitive of all the classes?
B's pretty competitive.
B's pretty good.
Yeah.
You got Scott, you got Bennington, you got Plattsmith.
Plattsmith.
Plattsmith that are all very good.
Mhm.
Who else in Class B?
B is Waverly is way good.
Okay, Waverly.
So
That's an interesting
plays
one.
Blair, Scott's
Elkhorn
really
North.
good. Elkhorn North's good.
York
plays you in a phone booth.
kind of like Plattsmith.
Yeah.
They just want to
real tough.
beat your head in.
Yeah, defensive football.
Yeah,
team.
okay.
Norris is pretty athletic. That one could be a lot of points in Grand Island against Northwest tonight.
Okay.
So, yeah. But Waverly's defense is pretty good.
Class B and C1, most competitive of the group. All right. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit of Class A.
Okay.
I also want Sauter's choice on who's upsetting Bennington this year.
It's fair.
Okay.
I think it's more
if they get upset.
There's more of a
it's going to
chance
be
than in years past.
So
I
hold
think.
on to that thought.
He's got one in his head already.
Yeah.
He's rip roaring and ready to go. Coming up next, we will talk some Class A football matchups as well, right here on Hurrdat Sports Radio on ESPN Omaha 590, ESPN Tri-Cities, and KFOR in Lincoln.
We will be back. 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 You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Harburg, he's taking a shot downfield, wide open end zone, caught, touchdown. It's Malachi Coleman.
Nebraska, they make you play with all 11, right?
Heinrich gets the snap, back to throw. Pass it time, steps, throws, pass, caught by Fedoni at the 20. He's to the 15, to the 10, to the 5. Touchdown, Nebraska. Thomas Fedoni leaped in the air, clutched the football, and then had open turf into the end zone.
We have to continue to go like this and just say we're playing as the Huskers.
Purdy to give to Grant. Grant left side. Another score for the Huskers.
These guys are learning by fire.
Harburg keeps a seam. Harburg lowers his head into the end zone. A touchdown for the Cornhuskers.
This is a personal deal. You know, I hear stuff about the offense and everything, and like we are not as good on defense if it wasn't for those guys.
Another low snap. Allmeyer steps up in the pocket. Throws middle, he's got his man, and a first down as the ball comes out. Tommy Hill has it going the other way, gets to his own sideline. Another big turnover for Nebraska's defense.
These guys fight. They fight for the University of Nebraska.
That went for 35 yards, and Keldrick Moody, welcome to Lincoln, Nebraska. The introduction made by Deshaun Singleton. You fight if it means you die. You fight, you fight, you fight, and you take for once what we want. Enough of this waiting for something good to happen. Who's the guy that's supposed to make the difference? I'm surrounded by it. And you guys freaking do it. We on the same page? Fight, fight, fight!
Woo. If we die, we die here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. We're trying not to die.
You forgot the F word.
Yeah, Shane just bleeped me. It was in there. You just missed it.
Yeah, no, we don't say that on the radio.
That's Andrew Rogers. I'm Ravi Lulla. Mike Sautter here with us as well.
We never say Frank on the radio.
As we continue with our high school playoff coverage, we're brought to you by the Warhorse Sportsbook. This is, we'll call this the sports cleanup for the week because we're cleaning up our coverage of the high school playoffs as they get started today in the 11-man realm and continue with 8-man as well.
Everybody gets jamming tonight.
Everybody gets jamming tonight. Warhorse Sportsbook, no bets, no glory, best place in Nebraska to place your sports bets. All right,
everybody, Bo.
Everybody. Let's move on to Class A here.
Wait.
Yep.
Can I ask my question?
Sure.
My one thing?
Yeah.
Sautter.
Nervous.
If there was a team to upset Bennington this year in Class B, who would it be?
Scott.
All right. You heard it here first.
Yeah.
Matt Vrzal up next.
Scott. You could Scott or Waverly. Like if the seeds play out like Scott, Waverly, if that is a semifinal, I'll probably be at that game.
Scott and Waverly?
Yeah. If that ends up being a semi, I will like
there it is.
There.
All right, sorry,
go.
Robbie. Now you
No, that's fine.
Take us to A.
Let's go.
If I will say if York Bennington play, that game will be 10-7. If that ends up happening.
York Bennington,
both defenses
just
are awesome.
Okay, that's
Like,
what we like to
their
call a
defense
slobber
is
knocker.
great.
That's what we call Big Ten West.
Yeah, it's Minnesota, Iowa all over again.
You love to see it. 12-10. Here we come. All right, in Class A, obviously all year it's been Omaha, West Side, and then everybody else. I assume there's nothing that's changed that in your mind.
Yeah, I mean
everybody.
Yeah, nothing's changed that. I don't think there's. I mean, I don't see a path for that changing. I just don't, and that's okay to say that out loud.
Yeah.
Like they've been that dominant.
Right.
They could have, if they really wanted to, they could have put up ridiculous, numbers against people.
Yeah, they called off the dogs pretty quickly,
like
most of the time.
Yeah. So
I mean, even in the this Creighton prep game that they've got today, that game was what 35-0 at halftime, maybe worse.
Yeah, I mean it's a rivalry game.
42-0 at halftime, maybe, and it ends up being 56-0.
Yeah.
It's a rivalry.
The one thing is just and they're built like for weather, fine. Like it's not a problem.
Yeah.
Because they can run it. I mean,
but we saw against Millard South,
Yeah,
the high wind did affect the passing game a little bit.
Yeah, with everybody. Yeah.
Okay, so with this West Side team.
Prep West Side though, like it's a rivalry thing. West Side's playing a lot better. Or Prep's playing a lot better
than they were earlier in the year.
I mean, you got to realize
that was a super young team, right?
Yeah, that up front, super young.
Yeah,
and they rebuilt their lines basically, and they have a freshman playing defensive tackle, rotating it. That it took some time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like to get that done, but them making the playoffs is a pretty good step for the way the season started. I think that was just the ultimate goal this year with the roster kind of changing. But last year they were a semifinal team, and this year you look like we lost a lot, moving on. But I don't see a path for them to win tonight.
So West Side, where would if they go the distance? They go undefeated. They win it all. Where would this team rank among
one of the best ever? Yeah, I don't think that's a question. 85 Millard North probably in that.
It's 85 Prep.
85 Prep.
03 Millard North.
03 Millard North. Yeah,
those are kind of
that conversation.
Consensusly the best two teams in state history.
Yeah. They would be right up there.
They'd be in that neighborhood. Yeah.
Margin of victory is something, right? Like if it. I mean, they got to finish the job, and they have to win by a lot.
It's a big if.
There's a lot there, but
there's 4 weeks. 4 weeks of football still to go.
Just with the talent, that prep team, that 85 prep team had like 15 Division
D1 guys,
athletes.
Yeah.
So that says a lot, right? But if you look at this West Side team, they have four guys that are power conference committed or offers right now. If a walk on to Nebraska, Rizak quarterback Anthony, will see where that ends up. But obviously, I think everyone knows he's really good and has FCS offers and stuff. Yeah, and then you have even like D2 guys if they want to be, a lot of them up front. So Bo Ryan, linebacker, is a really good player. The talent is it's
there.
Tremendous.
It is. I mean, and this is not a knock on them. If you're comparing all timers, 85 Prep, 03 Miller North, there is a little bit of a gap in terms of Division I guys. There was just more on 03 Miller North. There was more on,
right.
I mean, 85 Prep, I think you had NFL guys on that team. And same with 03 Miller North. So that's maybe the only real difference. But in terms of how they've played in their high school football season, this team has been as dominant as anyone we've seen.
They definitely have a chance to go down as make an argument for one of like the 2015 Omaha North team with Calvin Strong. They killed everybody. They were fantastic. I think it was 19 Bellevue West recently too, where they gave up 65 points. I mean, in the whole season,
the entire year.
Yeah, it was a stupid number.
Which Westside's not going to be far off from.
No,
that.
So you're looking at like, and it's kind of like apples to oranges, right? Because if you look back, the way the game has changed a ton. That's why when I always said, Zane Flores is the best pure quarterback to ever play in Nebraska, and people looked at me crazy, like, well, Eric Crouch won a Heisman. I'm not talking. I'm not talking. We're talking about different things.
We're talking about pure passers, like traditional quarterbacks.
Yeah, like they're different. So it's hard to compare eras like that. But
because high school football in Nebraska has changed dramatically, even in the last 15 years. Like dramatically. So if you're going back almost 40 years to the mid 80s with Prep, totally different scenario here. So it is hard to compare, but I also think it's hard to, if Westside finishes the job, to keep them out of that conversation.
If they do.
Yeah, that's the if, right?
They do.
If they don't, what do you think that looks like in terms of how that happens?
Well,
obviously it's the least likely scenario.
Yeah, I mean, Miller South, Elkhorn South, the deal is up front, like defensive lines. I look at Elkhorn South, Millard South defensive line. Obviously, we know what happened when they played Miller South. I mean, now
that game was
Westside's defensive line is pretty dang good too.
Yes,
right?
But that game was 17-14 at one point. Like it was close-ish.
And Bell West, like if Bell West can get by Papio tonight, I'll be at that game. That game, I am
super interested
in that one tonight. That's the one I'll be at. You have Davon Hall back, McMorris back. K-Line feels like he's playing better. CJ Goff is running the ball better for Bellevue West. But Eric Ingwerson playing defensive end against that O-line is going to be a challenge.
Get the ball out quick.
Yeah. And Peyton Prestito running the ball. Can Bellevue West run the ball? That's going to be the thing. And another one, Gretna, Omaha North, that could be like,
yeah, I mean,
14 to 7. Yeah, I mean, it could be really low scoring just because defensive game.
South, low amount of points last week.
Yeah.
All right, coming up next, we're going to wrap up the week in the show with our guy, Matt Vrzal. That's coming up next on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio. Now let's find out what Matt Vrzal is better at. Telling stories or making pizza.
Matt.
Matt's an exceptional young man.
Matt Vrzal.
Happy birthday, Matt.
You know, Matt, he's a tremendous athlete.
Matt Vrzal.
Come on, Matt, I'm with you.
You know, like Matt Vrzal, you're one of the sexiest people in the world, but you're not one of the most beautiful. How did that happen?
Here is Matt Vrzal.
All right, Matt, thank you very much.
Wrapping up the show here, wrapping up the week on a Friday with our guy, Matt Vrzal, as always. Verz, how are you this morning?
You know how, boys. How are you?
We are doing pretty good. Tons of high school football we're getting to today. How you feel about the playoffs starting this week?
It's always good to get to winning season. It's a fun time, and that's kind of the mindset I try to just get into the boys. I'm like, if you're thinking about anything but winning, you might as well just check her in right now. So, I just like this time of year. It is what it is. This is just why you do it. It's why you get to this point, and it's why you practice and you lift and you study and you do all these things. So now you get the rubber meets the road, and it is win or go home. And there's no better thing than that.
Hey, Verz, Terman is a math teacher, correct? If I remember correctly?
Nope.
Oh, he's not. Okay.
That's other Terman is a math teacher. Math teaches history.
Got it. Okay. Because I didn't know if you guys were kind of already knew where your playoff standing, where you were going to be before
They
last
all
Thursday?
do that. They all do that crap.
Yeah. Felt like it maybe, did you kind of leave a little on the little meat on the bone on Thursday?
Hey, dog, watch this. Let all the games end. The NSAA will calculate it, then we know. Okay,
Yeah.
I just saved you 45 minutes of a spreadsheet build.
Yeah. So I just was, my thought was, you played Gross, your back-to-back weeks playing Gross, and did you just not show everything? Like, what was that? Did both teams kind of just know, hey, this is where we're at? But no, I'm sure there was maybe some math being done before that.
Oh no, the rest of them love it. They freaking love it. They got this sheet, and if this team wins this game, and then we this and that, and I'm like, Jesus Christ on a crutch. I was like, what are we doing here?
On a crutch? Never heard
Let's
that.
just sit here and hang out and have some fun and all that. They know too.
Right.
they'll taunt me with that stuff. I'm just like, oh, okay, neat. I was like, just tell me what time we play. That's all I really need to know. Some people like that stuff.
Verge, you like, hey, I became a football coach, so I didn't have to do math anymore. Like, what are we doing here?
No, I'm very good at math.
I was going to say, he's got to count the number of orders he gets.
No, I got a degree in finance, so I don't see the need to calculate something somebody's already calculating for me.
Yeah, that's totally fair. You do, as Sautter mentioned, the back-to-back matchups is a little bit unusual. Is there anything that you kind of think about differently when you have a situation like that where you're playing a team in close proximity like you are this week?
Yes and no. I mean, there's things. By this point in time of the year, you are what you are. And can you run little compliments off of things? Yes. Are you going to make wholesale changes? No. Do I think Gross is going to come out and play one of the more, the most physical game we've played this year? Yeah, I do. It's Gross.
Mm-hmm.
Gross doesn't like Scott. We don't like Gross. And it's good. It's a fun, hard-hitting, mean game. And we had mom football on Monday, and we're watching film, and I said, this is not a mom game. I'm like, you're not going to like this game. And they're like, why do you say that? And I was like, because there's going to be a couple dudes over there on Gross. They're going to shove your little baby down again, and you're going to get pissed.
Yeah.
You're going to think it's a penalty, and I'm not going to, and that's just the way it's going to go. And so they get a kick out of that. But no, it's this is just the time. It is that season. And if you, by now, like I tell you guys earlier in the year, my goal by week 4 is to not coach.
Mm-hmm.
You've seen everything we're going to see. There's nothing I can do for you. I can drill you. I can run you through stuff. I can say, this is what we think they're going to do. But when we get down that field and the hits start popping, you have to figure it out. I cannot come out there. We only have 3 timeouts, and Turman gives me no authority to call any of them. So you got to be men, and you got to talk to each other, and you got to figure it out. And so they did a nice job. Gross, I love how they go at it. They just go at it aggressively, and it's fun. And it's, you're gonna not succeed in plays with Gross. They're going to get you. 14 for them. Nosbish is really, really good linebacker. Nobody will ever probably or has heard of him, and it's very, very. Everybody should know him because he is not the biggest human being on the field. I will throw him out there as the toughest at any weight, pound for pound. I'll put him up there against anybody, but he will get after it, and it's awesome. And I shook his hand after the game. I said, I love to watch you play football, bud. I said, I hope you have as much fun as it looks like you're having. And they don't. The kids are like, whatever, crazy old person, don't talk to me. I'm like, yeah, I get it.
We're talking like 5'7", 155, 160 is Nosbish.
And I'd alley up with him any night. If I got into it and I saw him walking down the aisle on my side, I'd be like, yep, we're good.
South Omaha boys.
Verse.
They are, man.
I know, yeah.
They're tough.
Verse, I kind of want to change gears here and talk about Nebraska for a hot sec, but I think there's a good connection to high school as well. Young offensive linemen will be seeing the field in the coming weeks for Nebraska with all these hurt bodies just to fill positions.
Say his name, Sam Sledge.
I'm about to
his
say
name.
it. How excited are you for guys like Sam Sledge and Gunnar Gatula to get their reps early, and how can these early reps really impact their future at the school?
I mean, I don't know how much I don't know how much Gatula will play. They talk about him a lot, but from some of my people, he's still got a ways to go. The Sledge kid is the prize of your class. I mean, he's a big, athletic, mean kid, and it's everything that you want a lineman to be like. If you want to pattern what Nebraska will probably continue to acquire for linemen, is that the athleticism has to increase because the athleticism of the defensive lines have increased. And if the more athletic kids you can get, the better. The fact that Sammy started at tight end and then he moved down. I worked with him at a camp once, and I was like, well, you're probably going to be a guard in college. He didn't really like that. But, you know, when you go back into the history, into the annals of Nebraska football, you look at Searles even. You know, Searles, those guys were athletes. You have great hands. You can hit a baseball. You're good at golf. You're not just a big human being that goes out there and kind of gets in the way. Uyghur, you know, go down the line. Chris Dishman was a state champion, or not a state runner-up wrestler. Jeff Ogard tooled on him our senior year. But you had these big human beings that were just athletic, and it wasn't an anomaly. They're out there. I just got some pictures, or somebody sent me some film. I apologize. I'll tweet out your Twitter handle, but I was a kid in Stanton. I think his name's like Ren.
Yeah,
buddy. I mean, that's a big athlete. He needs to get to camp and so they can see his feet in person, but he's got great feet. You can tell he's an athletic kid. So yeah, excited for Sammy and the opportunity. You know, he can go out there and be awesome, or he can go out there and lay an egg. But if he lays an egg, you have plenty of time to get him better. For me, probably my bigger curiosity in it is how well level 2 and level 3 are prepared. Because with injury and attrition, now I can really get into, okay, how many layers are you preparing to be starters? And if the kids come in that aren't starting, Evans Jenkins is a great example. He rolled in and it didn't drop off. But I've been in his camp for a long time. You know, got great feet. He's an old wrestler, wears 51. I mean, it's all awesome.
Ren Brown is the Ren Brown from Stanton. Yep. He's a junior, 6'5", 260.
He is?
Yeah.
All right, great. And then you got the Patel kid out of Albion too.
Yeah.
I mean, they can do a lot of internal repair locally.
If there was enough tables in this place, I would stand on every table and say Sam Sledge. You can't pound the table hard enough. And
there are plenty of tables here, and I would love to see it.
Okay.
But if you look at they had to be patient with that. They still have to.
Right. Yeah.
Because the long-term plan is a 4 for 3.
Right. Yes.
If you maintain his redshirt, you're going to have him for 3. He'll be gone after that 4th year. You can't.
He was just so undervalued, rated, whatever you want to say in high school. It was terrible. Like,
but see, that's the beauty of it, though. Like T.O., Tenneper, Young, Solich, McBride, they all had such a finite eye of what the kid could be, right? And that's the beauty of us being in Nebraska and our football being viewed as less at the high school level. Is you can go in and take these gems, and people roll their eyes, and then you go have a kid 2 years later that's an All-American.
Matt Vrzal, good luck this week in your playoff matchup, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, boys.
Thank you, Verz. That's our guy, Matt Vrzal, owner over at Paisan Pizzeria, former Husker. And we will that's our week. We will be back next week recapping Nebraska, Purdue, tons of high school football as well. All that and more on Monday on Hurrdat Sports Radio.